Well, everybody, welcome to Startup Wednesday. I'm Nick Palavita, and along with Kim Calhoun, Namaste, as they would say for our friends in India. And we have a big lineup today, including a lot of people from Silicon Valley Startup, who's going to be joining us on IBMTV. So it's going to be we're pretty well booked and jammed today. It's just going to be one of those days. But Kim, before we get into that, we have our political correspondent, and we got to listen to what's happening in Washington, D.C. With Bill Trezevant. So let's find out what's going on in Washington, and then we'll move on from there.
From IBMTV, International Broadcast Media, this is your report from Washington. The bright light for the day is there are only 34 days left until the election. Entering what was the most highly anticipated political event, the two men exchanged no handshakes, no fist bumps, and no elbow taps. Amidst the temperature-controlled cool air, the crowd hushed and the bright lights focused on the two men who would lead a nation and a world. With a pre-debate estimated 110 million Americans tuned in via network broadcast and an unknown number over the internet worldwide, Trump attacked Biden, and that was the beginning of the end for any hope of a debate. Trump charged Biden with wanting to eliminate private health care. He charged Biden with being a socialist. He charged Biden with killing over 300,000 American military personnel. Trump blamed China for everything. Trump called Biden dumb. He said Biden would shut down the economy. Trump declared that he brought back football. Trump attacked both of Biden's sons, one dead and one alive. Trump charged cocaine use. Trump admitted that the Supreme Court nomination was a sheer exercise in raw power. Trump, when asked about his health care plan, said he plans on cutting drug prices and will make insulin, quote, flow like water. Trump's signature line, though, when asked to disavow white supremacists, Trump said, quote, stand back and stand by, followed by his statement that he would not accept the results of the election. Trump's meltdown continued, descending into name-calling, constant interruptions, taunting, divergent, rambling answers. The moderator lost control and the nation was robbed. Biden sought to focus on the issues, appeared measured and cool. Biden delivered answers when given a chance and repeatedly directly addressed the camera speaking to the American voters. But all of his answers were lost as Trump dragged the debate into the mud. Biden's signature line, quote, would you shut up, man, end quote. That line summarized what viewers thought as they changed the channels amid suggestions that the remaining two debates be canceled. In the end, a debate was scheduled, but only one person showed up ready to talk about the issues. Any hope of a unifying message was left on the floor of the auditorium. Trump will be in Minnesota today. Biden is on a two-state whistle train campaign through Ohio and Pennsylvania. Separately, the Trump campaign has pulled its TV ads from all the states except for Arizona, Georgia, and Florida in a sign of its dwindling resources. In contrast, the Biden campaign has gone on the airwaves in 13 new states in a sign of the massive influx of resources. The latest reports show that the Biden campaign raised over $450 million in August and over $250 million in the 1 week following Justice Ginsburg's death. In other news, the Royal Dutch Shell Company said Wednesday it's planning to cut between 7,000 and 9,000 jobs worldwide by the end of 2022. Following a collapse in demand for oil and a subsequent slide in oil prices during the COVID pandemic. On October 1st, roughly 40,000 airline workers' jobs will evaporate in an industry decimated by the COVID pandemic. The airline bailout ends and the jobs will follow. Disney announced that it will lay off 28,000 employees in Florida and California, roughly 25% of its workforce. Essence Magazine has announced that it is furloughing its entire staff for 6 months. In spite of this mounting pressure, there is still no COVID deal, and Congress is set to adjourn this Friday. In a sign of the times, the British Zoo has had to separate 5 foul-mouthed parrots who keepers say were encouraging each other to swear. Quote, we are quite used to parrots swearing, but we've never had 5 at the same time, said the zoo's chief executive. Quote, most parrots clam up outside, but for some reason, these 5 relish it. It's brought a big smile to a really hard year. The parrots have been separated. They were moved to different areas of the park so they don't, quote, set each other off. Separately, a rat for the first time has won a British charity's top civilian award for animal bravery, receiving the honor for searching out unexploded landmines in Cambodia. Finally, the current COVID death toll from Johns Hopkins is over 205,998 American souls lost and 1,008,368 global souls lost with no end in sight. That is your report for this last day of the month, September 30th, 2020, from IBMTV, International Broadcast Media, smart television for a smarter global community, from dictatorships to democracies around the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I'm Bill Trezevant.
Wow. That's something else. Maybe we should bring Bill onto the show.
I'm wearing my sunglasses, one, because our future's supposed to be bright, like he said. We're just a few, 35 days away. But that left quite a shiner on America, if you ask me. If that was quite of a black eye that the president gave us by not behaving properly in a debate. Most people said, oh, he's being aggressive, but that's not how debates are handled. And it just shows how much we've degraded in our country, in our political system and government system. It has just deteriorated our society.
Let's see if we can bring him on. Let's get let's see if I can get this thing rolling. Come on. Sometime. No, I'm good. Just a minute.
All right.
The drum roll plays. How you like that? Welcome, Bill, to the show. I guess you you watched the whole thing last night. I went to sleep after about 20 minutes because I couldn't hear anything. They were all yelling at each other.
Well, I did, and not only that, just to make sure that I hadn't missed anything. I had it recorded, so I went back a couple of times just to make sure that I was sure that I heard what I was writing.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was as bad as I thought it was, but I went to sleep, and I'm on record here. IBM TV, we would have done a better job than you guys at Fox because we have a mute button. Hello, okay.
Yeah, if you want to talk, he can mute you, just like I'm talking right now, and I'm going to try to talk over him. He can mute me right now. He can do it. He can reach over and go, there you go, Kim.
See, she's muted. Isn't that amazing?
That okay.
Now the thing is, that's all you have to do, and it would have solved a lot of that problem. And this was, in my humble opinion, horrible production by the people at Fox. They should have had the mute button. They should have had the sound. They should know what they're doing when it comes to producing a show like this. They failed. I mean,
in past presidential debates, they also had lights as indicators, indicating you've got
your time, of course. And so you have it timed properly. I mean, the thing is, for a company like Fox to put on a horrible show like that is just really, it lays on their feet. Why that was so bad, because it's so simple. If you have the mute buttons, you have the sound tracks, you basically have sound boosts, mute buttons, and the other thing what you do is you have timers. All three of them, and you could do a debate properly. It told me Fox doesn't know what they're doing, so I'm slamming Fox right now on IBM TV, because IBM TV is better than Fox, and it's because also we have some great people like Alexander Starr from Canada. Well, Alexander, welcome to the show.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fine. As a matter of fact, I even have clapping in the background. How do you like that? Can't beat that. Now, did you happen to see the debates in America?
Yes, of course, indeed, I did.
And what are your thoughts, sir, kind sir?
Well, I have a lot of difficulties to see how you can continue to insist that America is the strongest and wealthiest and whatever else there is that you're usually telling us, while you have two I don't know, creatures of some kinds that are they are, when you're going shopping, sometimes you're buying a product and you see the use date, and let's see, use by, say, October 2, 2020, okay? I think these two guys, it's a damaged goods, both of them.
I couldn't agree more. I thought it was absolutely horrible. But let's see what our friends think over in the other side of the world. India, will bring in Ankit and see what he has to say. I don't know if he watched the debate. Good to have Ankit from New Delhi showing up. How do you like that? Okay, Ankit, what do you think about? Did you even watch it over in India?
Yeah, we covered it on Fox. I mean, people were watching on Fox, and in fact, it's there in the news as well. But nothing major, because it was not looking like a debate, but it's was looking like an allegation. That's what we discussed on IBM TV. It was not about, something where we are two candidates are talking about to be the next president, because they were talking about something, and there were a lot of the way. No one wants to listen actually, basically, and they are trying to argue with each other and stuff like that. So it was not looking like a debate which we used to see earlier. So
Right.
that's what.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely horribly done. But let's go to another country. Let's go see how we're doing in China. We'll bring Rakesh on. Rakesh. Hi, Rakesh. Welcome to the show.
Okay. Hi.
I just love my new toy. I can't stand it. Rakesh, did you happen to see the debates in China?
Just saw the highlights the next day.
Oh, okay. So you didn't waste your time.
Smart.
That was good. You didn't waste your time, because the thing is, I thought the production by Fox was absolutely horrible. They didn't control the mics. They didn't control the time. They didn't control the sound. I mean, all what I would say is amateur hour by Fox, and then they broadcast it to 110 million people. Amateur hour.
Nick,
we would have done a better job.
Nick,
Bill.
No, that was just Americans. We don't know yet what the number of people worldwide who watch. So, I mean, it's easy to say that it could be over 300 million worldwide, let alone on repeat.
Yeah, but Bill, if we produced a show like that in IBM TV and we didn't control the mics, which we do here, okay, what would people say about IBM TV? We would be killed by producing a show that poorly. Yeah, I mean, serious. And not only that, if Biden or Trump wanted to present their plan, we actually have a share screen. You could present your plan. I mean, the thing is, to the worldwide audience. So what I saw was an amateur hour done by a major television network, Fox, whatever they call them, and they did a horrible job.
They should have known better, because they've seen the way Trump debates the last time, and like I said, I was timing when the first insult would come out, and then I just thought it was very degrading that he would go with insults about his sons. I mean, how low can you go? You can't talk about your policies and what you're going to do and how you're going to fix the problem of the country. Instead, you're going to shoot a man down talking about his sons, one dead and one. I mean, come on, people. I mean, that's the president you want? Somebody who's going to just degrade more people and degrade our country. And then he called the Americans stupid. Okay, 23 minutes in, he said, or it was 24 minutes in, somewhere around there. He goes, well, the Americans are stupid. They don't use these tax deductions. So you're stupid.
Well, see what happens is that they can't use those deductions. We're gonna have a whole show on Monday's Economics Monday, dealing with Trumps and taxes. And when I say they can't use the deductions, if you work for somebody and you're an employee, those deductions he's describing aren't available to you. So there's a lot of things that wealthy people have that they can use in terms of tools and techniques to reduce their taxes. We're going to discuss it all on Economics Monday that average wage people don't have. So they can get hammered. Yeah.
Nick, if I can, just right now, we are approximately 14 minutes into Startup Wednesday. Okay?
Yeah.
We have covered more substantive topics than they did in 90 minutes during last night's debate. I just want to point out the difference between an IBM TV production and Fox, that's right, smart television for a smarter global community, and what Fox did. It was horrendous.
I'm with you. Fox was absolutely horrible. I mean, the thing is, that whole debate was not a debate. There was no discussion of issues. You had two people talking over each other continuously, and none of the issues were addressed. I had to turn it off in about 20 minutes because I realized the moderator, who was it, Chris Wallace, he didn't have control. He didn't have control of his audience. I mean, he did not have control of his guest. He didn't have control of the time. He didn't have control of anything. And to me, it was an embarrassment that a major television network would put on a production that poorly, because you and I know, Bill, that if you don't want me to talk anymore, all you do is you go press the mute button.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That's right. I was going to ask you two, because you two are lawyers, so of course you've taken debate in school. I mean, that's part of your trainings. Maybe you took it in high school. My brother was a debate champion for many, many years, and now he is a coach in debate at Gulliver's Prep. So I kind of understand the rules of engagement, but I want to ask you, what are the rules of engagement for a proper debate?
Well, the thing is, a lot of the debates that you do in court, they're not really debates. In other words, you have your opening statement, you have your presentation, you have your closing statements, but your conversations with the jury, with the judge, is all determined by the court, and they control the court. I've been in front of a lot of federal judges they control the court. Now, here's how they do it. If you continue this, Mr. Palavita, I will hold you in contempt. Now, what that means is you either get fined or they'll basically cuff you and take you to jail. All right. Chris Wallace doesn't have the power to hold anybody in contempt. Contempt of court is always a big one by the judge. That's the big hammer they use. A lot of federal judges don't like to do that because they realize, quote, and I've talked to them, I've had some friends who are federal judges, they go, look, and judges, they go, I lose control of my court if I have to put out the big hammer, contempt. But every now and then, if they do, they'll just say, okay, I'm going to hold you in contempt. And attorneys don't like going to jail. And they don't like being fined. Now, on that debate, he didn't have that power. But the media does have another power. It's called the microphone. You can silence people on the microphone. All you do is press the little button. Now, if they didn't have the silence button there, then that's a big mistake by the director and the producer. This is the reason I'm saying I'm hanging this on Fox. Because the director and producer, like we have our directors on IBMTV, and Kid, if you want to, he could mute me. He goes, Nick's talking too long. He's done that every now and then. Nick's talking too long, bang, and he mutes me. Okay, that gives other people an opportunity to talk. And that's what happened. You can't say anything. That could have easily been solved last night. And they could have also had a share screen, and then you could share your plans. This was horrible. Yeah, Bill.
Okay, well, Kimberly, to answer the other piece of it, and Nick's absolutely correct within the confines of a courtroom. However, traditionally, within the confines of the debate, most of the debates, at least in the political realm, generally follow what we call a Lincoln Douglas style debate, where one side has an opening, the other side then has an opening, and then there are questions to each side, and each side can ask the other questions. But the premise of that is that each side agrees that it's going to be cooperative. That is to say, one side says something to make a statement and or ask a question and allows time for the other side to answer the question. Now, inherent in that, and I think it's one of the issues that we saw in this debate, was that you wouldn't go to what we call in the legal world ad hominem attacks, which is just Latin for calling somebody a personal name, which just detracts from the whole notion. So in this case, when it didn't even matter the subject, and I can't even necessarily pinpoint what the question was, but we have a clear list of what the insults were. And the insults were not based on policy. So Kimberly, you're right. Nick is absolutely right that a production studio, Fox Network could have done better, should have done better. They're the first to call anybody else out. But this is a time when it's right, it's true, and it's clear that they were flat wrong. IBM TV is better. Could do better, and and we could even have stand-ins with our guests and do better. But also, just think about a normal conversation of the average American or anybody around the world when they sit down at dinner and they have a conversation. They let the other side talk, and even if they disagree and they raise their voices, which in America we all know happens generally around Thanksgiving, but there's an exchange,
right?
And that just comes from something so basic. But I also want to add this, just as an observation, and then I'd like to go to the rest of the panel. Nick, I clearly understand, and I think that you're right with the network's inability to control, but their inability to control is based on singularly Trump's strategy to come in and disrupt, interrupt, and argue the entire time. When somebody comes in as their debate prep strategy, simply to engage in that kind of behavior, I'm really not sure that there's anything anybody can do about it.
They hey, listen, I've been in front of the Ninth Circuit, the 11th Circuit, many times on oral arguments, and the judges control their the speeches. So there's things they could do. They just need to do that. With that, we do have a special guest coming on from Switzerland. I hope you didn't see the debates. Ben Banerjee. Ben, I hope you didn't see the debates, but certainly welcome to IBMTV. We're certainly glad to have you here. You have some conferences and things we want to discuss on Startup Wednesday. So Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
Greg, thanks for showing up. You're saving me from an hour.
Yeah, we were saving us from the debates, which I hope you did not see. It doesn't go to Switzerland, does it? You didn't see what we're doing over.
I read the reports on it.
Oh,
but
good.
Wasn't it expected? I mean, most of the things were already pre-expected and pre-planned.
Okay.
Very insulting. I have to wear my sunglasses.
Listen, it was kind of bad because the thing is, on IBM TV, we control people's mics. In other words, if somebody's talking, we don't want them to talk. We just press a mute button and they stop talking. And yesterday, if you saw it, they're talking over each other, and the moderator was not controlling their mics. And also, you have timers. I mean, I got little timers, so I know how long people are talking. It was like there's no timers. And I know because I practiced before the United States Supreme Court, the 9th Circuit, 11th Circuit. I've been practicing law for 37 years. And I've had oral arguments before these courts in the United States. You're given a lot of time, 30 minutes, and you divide it. You get up and speak. You sit down, the other guy gets up and speak. But Bill, you're an attorney also. You never get up and speak, and your opponent jumps up and says, blah, 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 blah. You just don't do that. You'd be held in contempt. You'd literally be held in contempt, fined, and go to jail. All the stuff they did.
Nick, your only defense, you can do that just for our audience. So you can stand and say, I object. But even that is limited to when you're talking to a witness. It's not
okay. You can object in a trial, but when you're doing appellate argument before the 9th Circuit, there are no objections. Okay, so you don't get to object. You sit down, the other guy sits down. There is no, there's no objections, and you do it. So this was really weird, and I hope no one saw it.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I have been in quite a lot of political discussions and meetings because of my role at the East-West Institute in negotiation meetings, and I have seen worse. But luckily, they're all in Chatham House laws, so everything happens under closed doors. But I have seen the Russians shouting at the Americans and the Germans shouting at the Russians. I have seen Saudi Arabians shouting at Iranians. I have seen a lot.
Okay, I'm glad. That makes me feel better. You've seen worse. That's good. Okay, I thought we were the only ones that would do an embarrassing show like that.
No, you do it in the public. We don't do it in the public. We do it behind closed doors.
Oh, good. Well, this should have not been on the air. Okay, it was that bad. They should have not done that. They could have done it properly if Fox did it right, which is to be able to have everybody in sound booths and offload mics. And then you could also do what they call share screen. If somebody had a plan, you could actually share the screen and show everybody the plan. That's the proper way to do it. And I think they just really didn't do it very well at all. So.
In fact, Nick, I tell you something. I mean, I think they got a lot of content for the media around the world because based on that debate, there are a lot of shows and a lot of people have started talking about certainly how the debate happened and all this stuff. And in fact, as we discussed earlier, this looks like a elimination round of elections rather than electing someone. It's like who we can eliminate so that the other person can automatically be elected as a president. So I think that's what's going on right now. But today's Startup Wednesday, and we have Ben Banerjee joining us talking about impact investments. So, sir, would you share something about that? And in the meantime, I will share the screen.
Okay. No, it's very simple. We have our annual events here. So on 26, 27 October, we have our next event. So most of the world leaders come to our events, and fund managers like the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, the Norwegian Sovereign Fund, all of them come. And we try to make them aware of the impact investment.
Would you share something about that? And in the meantime, I will share the screen.
Okay, so it started 6 years ago when we started SEER to increase the awareness of impact investment in the Swiss financial system. And today it has become a global name. So we have people coming from all over the world, mainly from US. And this is the first time we also are doing it on the webinar because of the COVID. Most of our American colleagues can't come. And also from Asia, they can't come. But a lot of policymakers, decision makers are joining. And what is very important for us is that we also bring or give the chance to startups and small businesses who are doing something impactful, to make a pitch for these investors. So if they're looking for fundraising or something, but it has to be impactful business. So it has to be business in technology or agriculture or something, which is doing good for the environment or for the society. And today, climate change has become also a very important topic. So, for example, the head of European Investment Bank is also coming. So a lot of major funds. So if you have, I would propose if you have startups or businesses who are looking for funding to attend our event. We have very limited places, but it's always a physical event with 200-300 people. But this time I think we'll make it bigger. So that's it.
Ben, is this a live
Yeah.
event or is this virtual? Live or virtual?
Normally it's we always have it physical, but this is the first time we are doing it virtual. But it's closed. And and also forgot that the religious heads come. So a lot of faith investors and faith invest come. We started it 3 years ago when, under the leadership of the Vatican, many religious institutions came who are investing, and now they have also put together their assets because the religious institutions are extremely asset rich.
Yeah.
It's also being led by the U.S., the Methodist Church from the United States, the Church of England, the Shias, Sunnis, Hindus, Buddhists, Shias, and Sunnis. So they are all represented here. They come to look for projects where they can invest in. So they also will be representing.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's in short.
Yeah, well, no, this is really good because, Ankit, I also want to present this on Economics Monday because we have a lot of people that show up from all over the world that are into investing and they do investing professionally. They should certainly know more about this. I'll show that also on Economics Monday, as well as right now we're on Startups Wednesday. So we have startups coming, but you actually invite startups to come to this too, right, Ben?
Yeah, it is basically meant for the startups to get access to the financial world. Mm-hmm. Because like yesterday also we were having a meeting with the Norwegian Sovereign Fund, and they also have massive funds available especially for climate related businesses. But unfortunately they are not getting projects. They're not getting companies or startups who fulfill their criteria, and that's something I think it's a mismatch. The businesses don't know about the funds available, and the funds can't find the businesses.
Right.
So we try to somehow, normally speaking, we bring them physically together. This time, for the first time, we are trying to bring them together on webinar. Yeah. Let's see how much it works, but that's the intention.
Yeah.
What is the major criteria for a startup to be able to become part of your program? What is one of your major criteria?
We have only just a couple that it should be the startup which fulfills, suppose, one of the United Nations 17 SDGs.
Okay.
So you are aware of the SDGs, I assume, like the UN SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So like the women empowerment or life on forestry, agriculture, life under the water. So there are 70. If you Google them, you will find them all. So the startups. 17 SDGs of the United Nations. So the startups should somehow directly or indirectly support one or more of these SDGs.
Oh, SDGs. Okay, all right. Well, the thing is that's good.
After that, because once they show that they can meet the 7 sustainable goals, what's the next? Is there any other criteria? Should they be at a certain stage? Should they have some books prepared, some forecasting, business plans?
Yes. They don't have to do it at our event. No. At our event, they just have to pitch their startup. But once they come into discussion with the business, with the investor, of course they have to, and mainly because most of these are institutional investors, so they want everything proper and correct. And I would propose one of the criteria we don't strictly stick to it. But it is one of the unwritten rules is that not to be absolute pre-seed. That will not work. Like you come and say, I am Ben, I have $10 in my pocket, but I need $1 billion to set up a company. Believe me, we have that also.
Really? Wow. Okay.
But preferably not those.
Okay. They won't qualify. We have a lot of startups coming on today because Startup Wednesday, a lot of them are coming from Silicon Valley startups.
Yeah.
So, but you take startups from all over the world. You take startups from all over the world, right?
Yeah. Rockefellers are also coming.
Okay.
So
great.
So these guys are coming also. So by coming, I don't mean they're physically coming, but they're joining in.
Joining in virtually. As a matter of fact, we have one also backstage right now, I believe. We're just trying to make sure that he can come in. He shows up really well backstage, but looks like we're having Toulouse coming in. Oh, he disappeared.
Maybe
some
rebooting.
He's from Africa, so maybe there is some problem with the bandwidth.
Yeah, one thing we found out, Ben, after doing this, that in Africa, we have a lot of people that come in from Africa, but they have bandwidth issues in the continent of Africa. I don't know if you've experienced that or not.
Yeah, because we also are supporting a lot of projects in Africa. We invest also there, especially in women empowerment. One of the very interesting projects we are doing is in Ghana, making a circular economy. So they are using waste cotton to produce sanitary napkin for women, because otherwise 30% women there fall out of education. They can't go to schools.
Yes.
So we are doing a lot of these, and these are all financially very strong projects. So these are not just social projects, but these are financial investments. And bandwidth is always an issue whenever we have a meeting.
Bandwidth. Right. Yeah. Right. As a matter of fact, we have one program out of Lagos, Nigeria right now. And when we first brought the program on, we had a problem with the bandwidth, but then we were able to fix the guy's bandwidth. So now he's on every Friday. He runs a television show for us out of Lagos, Nigeria. But we have a lot of viewers in Ghana and Nigeria. We have a couple shows out of South Africa. But as we go into certain places like Rwanda and the Congo, the bandwidth, they come on and then they leave because they got bandwidth issues over there. And I just find that to be...
In fact, we have like 5 shows in the pipeline from Africa, and because of the bandwidth, we are not able to produce the shows because they don't have a proper bandwidth, in fact, to upload the shows. So we are struggling with that aspect, and we are looking for a partner to solve that out. But Ben, I would like to know that, how much you have invested in the startup so far, because it says that this is the 5th summit. And how many startups you have been produced in the past 5 years in different countries?
So in total, I think we do every year around 10 to 12 startups.
Okay.
And we have nearly 100% investment ratio. And the startups, they are mainly from 5 million onwards to 20 million, but they are generally in phased investments.
Okay.
So they don't want the day one all 20 million, but generally they take 1 year, 2 million, then the year after that, 5 million, and that it grows further than that. So total amount, I can't say. It is something around, I think, 140, 180 million.
Okay. And is it about just the investment, or are you also do strategic advisory or something like that with startups to help them grow or expand?
We are very resource poor. We don't have so much resource, and especially we do have network. We do have people into, but generally startups coming from emerging market or something, they have their own accountants, lawyers.
Yeah.
So, but we can give them advices. What we certainly can do is tell them whether their documents are acceptable for the investment quality or not. That we can do, and we can support them with that. But only from here, not locally. So if they come and say that this is the local pricing and this is the land price of the land, for example, very often land is a very important part of the business where they have to buy the price. We have no way to check whether the price they're quoting is really true or not.
Okay. Yeah. And also, when you talk about startups, generally a lot of startups get funding, but they don't get that execution level because of a lot of situations. So where do you see the returns for the investors who is investing in these impact investments over a period of time?
Impact investment, if I can quote, it was, I think, a report of Baker and McKenzie from last year, that impact investment, the investors, they're prepared to take 1 or 2% below the market. But if you look at the performance, on the other hand, the impact investment funds have outperformed every MSI, even during the Corona period. I have funds which are doing alternative energy, agriculture. They are all outperforming. They're performing amazing compared to the standard stock exchange listed companies. And our focus is very much on unlisted companies.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And sir, the document mentioned that there's a ticket to be for to join the Impact Investment Summit. So, how can someone buy those tickets, and what are the charges?
The tickets, I think, it's for the participants that you find on the internet.
Okay.
It is seer-summit.ch.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to put that up there, Ankit, for the people that are viewing Startup Wednesday, because we do have a lot of startups, Ben, that show up here from Silicon Valley startups, and we want to make sure that they can connect with the Impact Investment Summit that you're doing on October 26th
We also
and the
have
27th.
startups from all over the world, not just Silicon.
Yeah, we do. We have them also from all over the world.
Well,
That is
because
true.
there's
We
some
have-
brilliant ideas out there. And one of the problems Nick and I learned, this is the reason why we wanted to start a startup program, a healthier one than Shark Tank, is because they just don't get the exposure that they need to get the resources that they need. We learned over 90% of the startups that are invested in will fail. And we learned this through our journey. And so we said, well, what is the major cause of that? And one of the things I've noticed that you are doing right, that a lot of investors don't do, is you do phase investment. In other words, that way, if the startup is meeting their goals, they get their next phase of money. A lot of times, investors will say, well, let me just give you $100,000 and you figure it out. Or the person, they're too afraid to ask for the amount of money they really need because it sounds like a lot. But their research showed them, hey, you really need $3 million to do this and do the beta testing and get it going. But they're afraid to ask for that because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to manage. But if you do your business plan right, you find the right investor who wants to do phase investments, the odds of you surviving, like you said, you've got some very good success rates here. The odds are going to be higher in your favor.
Yeah.
It's a couple of things, because what you are mentioning is true, because you have two, basically there are three kind of investors. One is the private investors, who they are, what you are mentioning is correct, that they do 100,000, 200,000 something. In our case, we do not have too many private investors. We do have, but these are the ultra high networks. So they don't invest 100 or 200,000. They generally invest 5 million, 10 million, like that. The second are the wealth managers and the banks. So we have a lot of wealth managers and banks who invest 20 million, 30 million, like that of us. And finally, the third stage are the institutional investors, who are like the sovereign funds, the major banks, and they invest 50 million to 100 million plus. So they all have different criteria and different phases, but they also have the reporting. The reporting is very, very important, especially when you are asking funds for an impact project, that you are saying, I'm going to do something. For example, if you take the African project, where they are doing something for the women, every year they have to report what they have done, how they have utilized the money, and especially what impact have they had on the society, and have they really done what they have committed to? Because the investor can also withdraw if he is not satisfied with the impact.
Wow, that's very impressive. I like the idea that it's based on making an impact on the quality of life, right? The sustainable goals and quality of life. So I want to just curiosity, after the event, what are the next stages? You get the money to the people. Do you meet with them and then give them the money? Do they get the money right away? What are the next stages?
No. At the event, the startup makes a pitch, and if the investor likes them and they like the investor, then they take it offside. It's not. We are not a transactional event.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
Right. So you're basically introducing the investors to the startups. In other words, you're matching the investors to the startup. Now that's really good for what we're doing, because on our board we have the person who heads up Startup Australia, for example. Even though I said, we have a lot of people from Silicon Valley startups, but on Startup Wednesday we also have the people that run Startups Without Borders. So we have a huge ecosystems of startups that are that we're connected to, Ben, and that also, like you said, they don't even know that things like this exist out there. So they have
there's so much funds available. It's crazy. Every time, even the Faith Invest, we were having a meeting 2 days back with the Faith Invest. They have so much funds available because the issue with the Faith Invest is that they have more than 1,000 years of experience of giving money, but they do it mainly as a charity, as a philanthropy. It's for them a new way of thinking to understand that they can also do it as an investment. They have the organization, they have the people. I mean, the Catholic Church, their organization is more than 2,000 years old, and they are functioning absolutely perfect. So even from Rome, they know every project, everything happening in the local villages in Africa and Asia, everywhere. So they have the sources, they have the resources, they have everything. Only it's a new way of thinking that they have also found out that only giving philanthropical aid and grant does not always work.
And you know, Ben, it makes a lot of sense. It's like they say, you give somebody a fish, you'll continue giving them a fish. But if you train them how to fish, then they can fish forever. So, you know, when you're actually investing in startups in these countries, developing countries, you're doing them a favor because they're, rather than just give money to charity, you're giving them to their ecosystem businesses so they can grow their businesses. Much better way to do it. And we totally support that at IBMTV. That is definitely one of our missions, and we're more than happy to present this over and over again, not just on Startup Wednesday, but some of our other programs that we do on IBMTV, because the startups certainly, I think this is a great program.
And I would also propose, if you guys ever have time, to get somebody from the Vatican, like the Pope, or because he is really pushing it. The present Pope, Pope Francis, he's amazing.
Right. Okay. Well, we certainly would love to have Pope Francis on the show. Hey, listen, Ben. I was actually at his place several months ago. I was at the Vatican several months ago. He's got a beautiful place there. I do like it, and certainly if Pope Francis wants to be on IBM TV, and this is one of his initiatives, that would be great. I know Prince Constantine, who Kim knows pretty well, has been on our show before out of the Netherlands. I don't know if you run into him, but he's really behind startups. And he's been on our show before also. So it's good to see there's some influential people that are behind the startups and behind those communities.
And there's one more person who is very strong in this. It's Cardinal Turkson.
Cardinal, yeah.
Cardinal Peter Turkson. So Peter is, there's a high chance, it's my opinion, please don't quote me, but I will be quoted. There's a high chance that he may be the next Pope. So he's an amazing person.
Oh, wow.
And he's the one who is implementing this. He's pushing it.
Okay. Well, we'd love to have him on IBM TV, and then we can say, I knew him when he was just a cardinal.
He comes to our events also here. So he's...
That is so interesting that they get into investing. I wanted to know a little bit more about that, because you said it's, some of the investments are for the greater good, for quality of life and things like that. But in some investments, you can start generating revenue or generating above sustainability, right, profits. When they partner like this, we talk about, certainly they get some equity, but do they expect maybe a pay forward partnership program where maybe you get involved in helping them invest in other businesses?
I didn't understand the question. Can you please repeat?
Okay, so when you do invest, like the faith investors, right? Yeah. And this kind of program is really good, right? It seems like it's a lot lower risk. And the equity, you have to, of course, give back some kind of equity or return on investment. But do they also, in the partnership, ask the company they're investing in, when they become sustainable and profitable, to partner and help invest forward as well, like become one of those investment partners?
That is a very, very good point, because that's how we got them on the table in the first place. Because when we brought them 3 years ago, if you go to Google, you will find they were even 3 years ago. The 12 heads of the religions came here to Zoo, to our event. And this is how we got. So basically what they're doing, what you mentioned, is that the money they're earning from the investments is being put into, but this is only regarding the Catholic Church. that
Okay.
it is being put into new businesses and new projects. And they're also working very closely together with social philanthropic investments. So for example, let's say this project I'm talking about in Ghana. So the the business itself gets investment from the investor, but the surrounding around it, the education or the infrastructure or something, can come from the religious institutions. Or so it's a kind of working together, but these things take time. These are
Oh, yeah.
complicated, but it also gives a security for the investor when he knows that somebody as powerful as the U.S. Methodist Church. I mean, I have heard about the amount of money the U.S. Methodist Church has. It's amazing. I mean, these numbers are gigantic. So when they are there, then the investor also feels secure, and it works both sides.
Yeah.
That is, I'm glad to hear that. That keeps the ecosystem supported and sustainable. I like that.
Yeah, I got some numbers yesterday, which was with the day before yesterday. I think I wrote it down somewhere. Yeah, 50% of all the schools in the world are owned by religious institutions. 80% of the world population belong to one religion or another. 5% of commercial forestry belongs to religious institutions, and 15% of the sacred forest belongs to the religious institutions.
Wow.
14% of the world's total investment belongs to the religious institutions. These are just some of the numbers to give you an idea how powerful they are.
Nick, did you hear that?
I did. I'm taking mental notes. It's all been unloaded. I didn't have any idea that the I know that they had a lot of assets, but I didn't know it was that large of the amount of assets that they actually control. That those are fairly
and the
staggering
worst
numbers.
part is they themselves don't know how much they have, because a lot of their assets are illiquid assets.
Right. Yeah. There a lot of them are. It's real estate.
Yeah.
A lot of them own a lot of real estate, and so the thing is that they're illiquid assets. So you just don't know how large they are. But this is a unique change because usually they don't invest in social. In other words, they don't usually move that direction and invest in corporations. Part of the reason why, like in the United States, we have what they call UBTI. Income, which means that basically that you get taxed at a heavy rate if you start going into private industry. So that's part of the reason they just don't do that. But then they could do it through other entities, so that might actually work. And I guess that's what we see the morph. I do see it being very favorable, as opposed to just giving money to charity, or just handing money out is totally different than giving somebody a job or somebody a career or somebody a future. I think that makes such a big difference. And so this is definitely the way to go.
And another change they have been going through, for example, I don't know if you have been following the news from the Vatican lately. So you have the religious institutions, they have massive illiquid assets, and they also have liquid assets. But this they have been since a long time, traditionally, investing in just standard, they give it to money managers, they give it to fund managers who just invest it in standard funds and listed companies, everything. But now that is changing. I don't know if you heard that the Pope Francis, he fired, I think, one of their biggest, it was last week or 2 weeks ago or something, he fired one of their heads of this investment. Because now the religious institutions are saying, we have our religious guidelines. Every religion has its rules and regulations which they have lived for 1,000 years or more. Why are our investment policies not aligned with our own religious criteria and own religious guidelines? So that is very, very interesting, because that means they will be slowly and they have already started it. The present Pope Francis has disinvesting from lot of traditional old-fashioned investments and moving it into investments which are aligned to their values, because every religion has its values.
Right.
Sasha's going to have to leave before. I was going to see if he had anything to say on the investment side of things. He might be diving out to go do some investments.
Well, actually, Sasha runs a show on Wednesday called Investing with Sasha. So he may be diving out because he's got to get his investment show started.
Well, he also, I think he might have heard some things today that he didn't know, and he's diving out to go invest.
Probably.
But I would like to ask something to Ben. When we do these kind of summits, do you think that if we can broadcast this summits on IBM TV, that would give more leverage to the world of people and startups around the world? Because that gives us a lot of intuition. I'm not sure whether you are open to broadcast this live. Secondly, whenever we talk about adding some value to startup, inviting startup on all those summits, so we can add one more thing is that if some startup wants to showcase or demo themselves on a worldwide television, they can join us on IBM TV. So we can do some kind of partnership, making sure that they also get a lot of benefit out of it, and we also get some content, and we can plan and work that out together whenever it's possible.
That I think it's possible, because what we can do is that we have a lot of major investors coming, and if they allow it, of course we have to ask their permission. So for example, the Rockefellers or the Vatican, then we can give their speech to you and you can transmit it. And the other way around, if our startups want to make a pitch on the worldwide, because they may be, because when a startup makes a pitch to the investor, they also give a lot of confidential information, lot of their business, and they may not like it to go out in the open world. So we have to ask their permission very clearly, because not everybody is happy with all their information.
I completely understand.
Around.
But sir, you know that nowadays startup wants to do a lot of digital PR and global PR and stuff like that to make sure they can sustain the thing. So we can do something with them.
That makes sense. That makes complete sense.
A separate program here, because people, reaches us that they wanted to be part of the show and stuff like that, but they don't show up on startup. So we were doing a joke since a couple of months that startup don't show up. But if they're serious startup, we are definitely looking forward to work with them. In fact, we are setting up a new series of program on Wednesday after lunch, which is about just the pitching of startup. So the show name is all about pitching the startup. It's a half-an-hour show, one-on-one with startup, and they will just pitch their ideas, and we can do some brainstorming after that and question and answers. So that's what we are trying to work it out.
We have a viewer that said he would like to see that program. Wait, he's got another one. That would give more exposure for more people to learn about the business.
Rakesh has a question from China. Let's bring in Rakesh from China.
I'm just curious, with religious institutions investing in startups, does that make them for-profit enterprises?
It depends on which religious. Of course, they're all for profit, but for example, the Islam, they have very strong criteria.
In that case, if they're for-profit enterprises, they shouldn't qualify for a tax exemption.
Well, it always, as they say in law, Rakesh, it depends. It also depends what country you're in. In the United States, the thing is, you can invest, but you may, if you earn money, you may be taxed at a higher rate called unrealized business taxable income. You get hit with the UBTI taxes. At the same time, there's a lot of institutions that are not for profit, like over here, our football institution. The NFL is not for profit, yet they make profits in their underlying subsidiary companies and they pay taxes on it. So you can have a not-for-profit own a for-profit, and the for-profit pays the taxes on it. So it's perfectly legal to do it that way. But it depends on what country they're in. And see, when you're in a different country, you're playing maybe by different rules. Like in Switzerland, it may be totally different, or Liechtenstein or Singapore. So if they organize their corporations in Singapore and Liechtenstein to actually do the investments, then it doesn't really affect what goes on over here. So really, you got to go on a case-by-case basis. And Baker McKenzie, it's a very well-known law firm. It's the largest firm in the world right now that I know of. Baker McKenzie, they have international tax counsel to actually help people in this particular area. I knew some of the attorneys at Baker years ago. Actually, Bill Newton is one of their top international estate planning attorneys out of Miami. So, the thing is, what you do is you just make sure that you do the rules right. So you know when you're paying taxes, when you're not, what jurisdiction, and then the overall effect. And I think this is where Ben's getting at is, hey, look, if we can help people develop their own businesses and be successful in their own businesses, then rather than just handing out money and giving money, it's totally different when you hand somebody a whole career, a whole industry, something they may have passion, like building things or making products. That can be very exciting, and that can help everybody out. So I do like that mission tremendously that Ben's doing.
So I think we've got our startup person here.
Yeah, so we have Tellulid joining us from somewhere in Africa.
Tulio, can you hear us? We had some bandwidth issues.
Yes. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you fine. Now you're coming in good. What country are you in?
I'm from Lagos, Nigeria.
Lagos, Nigeria. Yes, we do have programs in Lagos, Nigeria. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, all right. Tolulade Ademisoye, the founder of Respa Technologies. And Respa Technologies, we are we are an end-to-end data analytics solution company and startup company. And so what we do at RISPA is that we help businesses. We are out to help businesses optimize their data with a focus on industrial businesses, industrial businesses like say for example the businesses that operate in the energy space and power spaces, energy operates in manufacturing and the like. So our goal is to help these companies to utilize their data. So we're currently working on an enterprise AI and ML solution software, which is still currently in still in the works, and so it's what we're currently developing right now at the moment. But at the moment, we are also vested in AI analytics training for these companies.
Very nice.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. See, the thing is, how long have you been doing this type of work in terms of data analytics? How long have you been doing this, Tolu?
Okay, so we started Respark Technologies like fully last year, August 15, 2019. But before then it has been in the works. So we started the whole Respark concept, or the idea behind it came in 2016. That was in May 25th, 2016. Well, it came mainly as a conference, So we started with the Respark conference, and the Respark conference was designed, and the goal was to foster adoption of emerging technologies in Nigeria and West Africa. So we started up then. We had collaborators from the G Lagos Garage here in Nigeria. We had collaborators from the Oracle in Nigeria here. So we ran a conference from 2017, 2018, 2019, except this year due to COVID and the lockdown. So last year we had the likes of Siemens, Flour Mills Nigeria. They're one of the largest fast-moving consumer goods in Nigeria, and the likes of it. So the whole goal was to have an environment whereby we can foster industrial engineering and technology to it. So that was the goal. But last year I decided to step down from my job. I was the CEO at an edtech company here in Lagos. So I stepped down from the job to go fully into Respark Technologies, and so we've been a year plus, since last year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So the thing is, it seems to me like it's a growing business that you're having over in Nigeria in terms of data analytics, which I think is pretty neat. Ben Coates has just joined us from the United Kingdom. Ben, welcome to the show.
Was that a little clapping sound, Mr.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I make fun of Great Britain, and so the thing is, I figured, well, I better return the favor and make you feel a little bit better from being over in the United Kingdom. For those who have just joined us at the top of the hour, we have Kimberly Calhoun, who is the vice chairman of the North Carolina State University's Computer Science Board of Advisors, Bill Trezevant, who's our Washington, D.C. correspondent, and heads up American politics. Rakesh, who's with Math Plus Science, an educational platform worldwide out of Hong Kong. Ben Banerjee, who's actually with Impact Investments, socially good investments, which I think is a great idea, out of Switzerland. And Kit Kandawar, who is a director at IBMTV in New Delhi, where all the good things take place. Tulid, who's our startup, who looks like he's been doing his startup for at least a year now, and Ben Coates, who runs Mughals Media out of the United Kingdom, otherwise known as Great Britain. So the thing is, the summit that Ben's doing, since some people have just joined us at the top of the hour, I hate to ask you to explain again. Ben, can you explain again the summit for the people who just joined us at the top of the hour?
Can we pull it up?
Yeah, can we pull it up again?
It's our fifth summit. We do it every year. It's 26, 27 October. And this is the first time we are doing it in webinar because most of our Asian and American friends, or basically none of our Asian and American friends can come anymore. So it's where all the investors come, mainly the ultra high net worth individuals, financial institutions, and wealth managers. And we introduce them with businesses who are busy in the field of impact investment. And impact means businesses which are good for the environment and or good for the society. And these are regionally agnostic. So these are spread all over the world, these investments.
Okay, and it looks like you have people from Hong Kong, Norway. Let's go take a look at some of the speakers.
Yeah, I can tell you,
pretty good.
Most of them are all friends.
Oh, you know these people? Okay.
They're all friends of mine.
Right.
So Bernard, his family is one of the oldest family. He owns many insurance companies, banks, and everything. Mm-hmm. Ida is, of course, leading the Norwegian financial institutions.
Right.
Elena is leading the European Investment Bank. They also have a couple of trillions. Mm-hmm. Stephen, of course, is the old. I don't know if you guys in America have CNA or not. It's a shopping. It's a shopping chain shopping. They're spread all over Europe. CNA.
Okay. Yeah, they're mainly in Europe. They're not here. Yep.
So they are very, very financially powerful, and they are one of the first impact investors. Mm-hmm. Michael is an old friend of mine. He's Prince of Liechtenstein, and he's very strong in financial industry.
Okay.
Kali is from the UN lab. She advises the UN on impact investment and on social projects. Mm-hmm. Sylvia is, of course, she's because Canton Zug, where we live, is one of our co-hosts. So Sylvia is the minister of the Canton Zug.
Right.
Stephen is, of course, the head of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, based out of New York. Yep. Oh, you have to scroll, otherwise I can't see.
Yes.
Bob is from UK. He's leading one of the major funds there. Urs is leading Pioneering Ventures Impact Fund. They manage, I think, 120 billion euros. Mm-hmm. Carl is the mayor of our city. Regula is also from our city, so because our canton is the host, so that's why. Mm-hmm. Martin is leading the religious center. There are many speakers who are not also mentioned here. So, by the way, right. Martin is the head of the Faith Invest, who is religion. He's British and he's an amazing guy. And Leo, of course, you can. He is mastering he's pulling the whole UK's. How do you call it? The rewiring of economy. So he's working together on rewiring the economic structure of Europe, together with Oxford University and a couple of other universities. And by his hairstyle, you can guess who his brother is.
Donald Trump?
No, you're very near.
No, Don Johnson from Miami Vice.
Oh, okay.
No. Leo is the younger brother of Boris.
Oh, really? Okay, Boris Johnson. He's like he has something to do with your country, right, Ben? Boris Johnson.
Oh, after last night, I really don't think you should be picking on Great Britain. I really should think you keep.
Hey, listen, they just couldn't control the microphones. What can I tell you? That was kind of an American embarrassment. You know, I don't know about that. That looks like by the way, Ben, that looks like a great lineup. Certainly, we'd like to have them on IBMTV. I think you have great speakers, and if we can rebroadcast what you're doing or stream through what you're doing, that would be great. We stream to about 122 countries right now, and a lot of the people, you know, this is the first I even heard about this summit. It seems like a great idea, a great passion.
It is a very closed. I mean, now it is on the web. Otherwise, it was always very closed because many of these people have security, especially last time when the religious leaders came.
Sure.
We had a lot of, and our city is too small to publicize it because we can't take the security responsibility of a lot of these people.
Yeah.
So, but webinar is easier. I mean, these people, they just join in.
Oh yeah, and also when you're doing a webinar fashion, you get people from all over the world that they could come and attend. And in terms of us streaming it, just have to work the technology out with Ankit, because he's the tech guy. He knows how to make sure the technology works. But this way, we'd have obviously a worldwide audience being able to view. But then they have to register with your program.
I didn't know about Ankit before. I would have to. We are such in a mess because it's the first time we are doing it on web. We have no knowledge, no experience, no nothing.
Right. Well, I was on record that
if you need help, we have plenty.
Yeah, we have the technology. Our technology, if we had done the debates, and forget Fox, we done the debates, it would have worked, because we have the ability to mute people. So the thing is, Ben, if somebody was over talking each other, I just press a little mute button and they stop talking, and I would have stopped
Nick's
it.
favorite, Nick likes to do this. They go away.
Or I just make them go away. Right. In other words, like some days.
You're not fine.
Yeah. Okay. Like some days, the people from United Kingdom, if they get on your tail and they become a problem, you just make Ben big if you want him to talk, and he's the only one talking. Or what you can do, if you don't like him, you just make him go away. You remove him. And to see, and you can always bring him back. I mean, he's backstage. But the thing is, they would not talk over each other. You see, Ben.
Nick, I think Ben needs to run now, so thank you.
I have to run now.
Thank you
very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
For joining us.
Great event. Thank you for joining us. Great. Thank you.
I mean, I have caught up on the highlights of the debate last night, and after that 20 seconds, I then went and had some breakfast. So, there wasn't many highlights. Was there more lowlights? But you've got your own issues. I'll let you guys get on with that. I don't particularly want to get involved. That's your issues. But
no.
It was embarrassing.
I actually came on the show like this because it was so embarrassing. Right, America got 2 black eyes, as far as I'm concerned, and it was just a very embarrassing moment. And what I would rather do is focus on the things that we can become successful with, because there's nothing I can do about that. Whoever becomes president, there's not anything I can control or change. The only thing I can control and change is what we can do for ourselves and for the people who want to unite and work with us. That's the change we can make.
Well, no, Kimberly, you can vote. You can make sure everybody else in North Carolina votes as a swing state. But Ben, all you have to do is catch the Washington report. You'll miss all the highlights, lowlights, and other lights, and then you can turn out the lights on America as the leader.
Bill, you're to be honest, whatever goes on in America, I always revert back to you in your 10 minutes, because you just make it clear. So that only comes through IBMTV. But to be honest with you, I don't think if you've made last night clear, you haven't slept, because I don't think anybody can. So,
he did. He did a really good job of pulling out the important aspects of it. But honestly, there was no real policy engagement, no real debate, as far as I call the gentleman's debate. Right. From the rules of engagement of a real debate. It wasn't even a brawl. I think I would have rather seen.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I would have rather seen gloves come out and they just swing at each other at that moment, because you couldn't hear anything. So
there was
the blood flying if you're not going to hear it. So I agree with you. It's an embarrassment.
We're back to what we said a couple of weeks ago. Is what are you voting for? The best of the best or the best of the worst? And I think we all know the answer to that, don't we?
Yep.
They could have controlled it. I'm saying I'm blaming Fox. Fox could have controlled it by controlling the microphones, putting sound booths. It would have been totally controlled. They could even do a share screen. We can do share screens. We do that for the summit. So if somebody has a plan, show me the plan. Press your share screen button.
Show it.
Okay, and show your plan.
Another kind of interesting observation is that Chris Wallace was supposed to be their most balanced and best moderator, which is why he was agreed upon by both parties, both campaigns. And the fact that he lost control so early in the process just makes it, unbelievable.
But part of the reason he lost control is he did not have the technology, or the producer and directors didn't bring the technology on to have him keep control, Bill. So the thing is, Fox needs to eat this one. It was really Fox that made the errors, and they need to eat it, because the thing is, they could have easily controlled it with the sound booth, microphones, silencers, and timers. I mean, there's so much stuff that they can do. The technology's all there, and then if Joe Biden has a plan, he could press the share screen button and share the plan with America. Look, that was horrible, absolutely horrible by Fox News. And the thing is, for these people, if they're going to choose Fox News over IBM TV to do this, they're making a big mistake, because we would have done a 10 times better job.
Bill,
10 times better job than Fox, baby.
Bill, the moderator, campaign, hashtag it. It's getting
going. And Bill could be the moderator. Forget this guy, Chris Wallace. He was horrible.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what an egotist. He goes, I made up all the questions. You never have somebody do it. You always have a team make up the questions.
That's true.
I mean, the whole thing from beginning to end was amateur hour Fox. I mean, and is that a big company? That's a big company. It's bigger than IBM TV, from what I understand, right? Okay, and they did a horrible job. So the reason I'm panning them is they made the whole country look horrible. All the United States look horrible.
I didn't hear one policy question. And honestly, both candidates failed my test on what they would have done for the pandemic, because the first words out of my mouth was rehire the pandemic team. That would have been the first thing I did the minute a pandemic was hitting our country. If I didn't have a pandemic team, I would have put one in place. That would have been one. 2, audit all the medical closets. Make sure that we can control whatever's going to hit our medical industry. No, not one of them. And I love Joe Biden because of so many of the policies he has done for our country. And I'm talking about the real endearing policies that protect us. But I think he was getting on edge a little bit. And of course, who wouldn't, when you've got somebody like you're debating against a child. Somebody put it on my post, that we had a 12-year-old bully in an adult body, in a debate. I mean, come on. So, but I'm disappointed in Fox and not bringing up the important questions of what we need in our country. Like, economically, what are you going to do to pull us out? Economically, what are you going to do to fix this? Okay, medically, what can we do to fix this?
Yeah, you're right.
None of that was brought up.
Because of their poor quality of production, they could not even get to those issues, Kim. In other words, it started off immediately, people over talking each other, and it went on for 30 minutes, and that's about all I could handle. I went to sleep. I was going, I really don't care what they say, because I can't hear anybody anyway. It went on
for an hour and a half because they didn't complete everything.
To me, it was a complete waste of time. And you could lay this on Fox. Okay. Lay it on Fox. Remember, Fox and Murdoch was the one who messed up MySpace, so now they messed up everybody's space. I mean, the thing is, it's true. They messed up. They had a big lead and they messed up. Yeah, go on, Bill.
Well, I have a question for Ben. Ben, I hear that there's a zoo in London that has 5 parrots that egg each other on to swear habitually. Have you heard of that story?
Every parrot does, Bill. 5 together is going to be a nightmare. My uncle trained his parrot to do inappropriate language.
Okay, but here was my question. Based on the highlights you saw from the American presidential debate, and what you know about the 5 parrots who can't stop swearing in the zoo, where would you rather go? A presidential debate or go to the zoo to see the parrot?
I've just booked a ticket at the zoo while you just said that, Bill. Do you know what, though? I mean, you blame Fox, you blame the moderator. The truth is, yes, Nick, you're totally right, unless it's produced correctly. But, my God, you should be better than that as a candidate. You should overcome that and get your policies out. That is what you're trying to do. and of course, but the good thing is, Kimberly said about your economy's output would have been superb today because everybody's gone to work saying we can do better than them too. And
Yeah.
the economy would have just been boosted.
Yeah,
but the thing is, your parliament, you guys yell at each other too all the time across the bench. Blah, blah, blah. But I've also seen you guys actually sit down and let the other person yell rather than you yell at each other at the same time. At least you're polite enough to do that. But technology solves all this.
Technology would have solved it.
Yes, because you have the mute mic.
But I like the idea of contempt and fines. That would have been funny last night. How much do you think Trump would have had to pay in contempt and fines?
Yeah.
Hilarious.
No full you can't do anything about the there's no full effect of law.
I won my wager. I said that he was going to start insulting instead of answering questions because he can't answer questions, but he can insult. So that's exactly what he did. I thought it was a very degradable and derogatory where he started attacking Biden about his sons. I mean, who does that in a political campaign? You leave the people's families out of it. I mean, it's just.
We have a guest teleload waiting for us, and then
that's right. Is he back?
They have a technical problem. That's why they have two windows. So I mean, he's showcasing camera from the one, and then voice is coming from the other one. So that's why.
So Talib was sharing with us. We are Startup Wednesday. He is a business. Share with us what your goals are with the product that you were sharing with us. And do you have a presentation?
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Okay, at the moment, currently, I do not have a presentation with me. At the moment, though. But so in terms of what we're currently working on our projections, for the upcoming year, what we're currently working on is finishing our MVP in terms of the enterprise AI application, because what we want to do is that we want to be able to solve the problem for companies like, say for example, energy producing companies or probably manufacturing companies that they want to get real life analytics, for things like predictive maintenance. And predictive maintenance in terms of managing their assets. So what we want to do is that we want to get the MVP out. Is what we're currently working on. So for the next, so we can begin to deploy to the various industries.
And what kind of services you are offering to the African countries? African companies.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Sorry.
So what kind of consulting and training you are offering in your country?
Okay, you mean training, right?
Yeah.
Okay, for training, we offer trainees around artificial intelligence, around the likes of data analysis and data engineering. So like some of these particular companies, they are beginning to go into they're exploring. Everyone is exploring the beauty of AI and data science, and being the fact that it's something that is currently our domain specialty. So we're able to train them and educate them around the concept of AI analytics. And so currently right now our trainings are currently offered in Nigeria, and we've had a couple of people coming, from outside Nigeria for the training. That's virtually anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about all those technologies and services and stuff like that, AI and all those things, we need a good bandwidth. So as of now, it looks difficult for us to understand how you manage the bandwidth problem in your country.
Yeah. So in terms of the bandwidth, so the network, it's not so friendly at the moment. I'm currently using my desktop for mic, while I'm using a mobile for the video. So in terms of the network infrastructure, I would say it's not as it's supposed to be. Where it's supposed to be. So there's a larger room for that, But what we're working on, it's not going to be based on it's not going to be based as it were on the mobile or maybe broadband internet as it were. So it's going to be as it were, because we are working on like a web application, that can be offered offline, such that you say, for example, let's say you work in an healthcare industry, or you work in a probably e-commerce, and you have some data that you want to get analytics from, and you come to our platform, our web-based platform, you upload our data. So you upload your data rather on our web-based platform, and our platform can offer you real-time analytics in terms of, so say for example you want to manage, let's say a particular branch, maybe in Ohio or probably in Pennsylvania. You want to manage, you want to be able to say, okay, which particular branch is giving me this result. So with our platform, with our enterprise AI platform, you're able to carry out these analytics, uh, on our platform.
So do you have a 2G network or a 4G, 3G network in your country?
Okay, you mean stable network. So it's relative. It's relative in the sense that it depends on the area. So it depends on the area, and it's relative.
Because what we have in India nowadays, that if we have an application which is on 4G on a platform, what we do is that we have a similar application for a 2G client as well in a rural area, so that at least those clients can use that application in a lighter format and do a transaction. And then whenever they are in 5G or 4G network, they can still use the same application with a better features. So do you have something like that, or some kind of program you are working in Nigeria?
Um, Sorry, can you take that again, please? Sorry.
So basically, suppose we have a YouTube which is on 4G, the general YouTube, but then we have a YouTube Lite which is for 2G network as well. So we can, the countries where we have a network problem, what we generally do is that we have multiple applications on different networks, so that it's easy for the user to manage it out. And whenever they have a good network, they can have a full-fledged application as compared to low network stuff like that. So that's what. A new way of life basically, and also that helps in people who have bad internet connection.
Okay.
Do you know about that?
Oh.
I think Kim understands what I was trying to convey to.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Bill, you want to rephrase that?
Well, Ankit, just try me one more time.
Okay.
I was back.
Okay. I would. Yeah. There's a.
Yeah.
Yeah. My nephew is crying. That's why. So I didn't want the sound to come on air. So, but it's fine. I think it's been attended to right now. So sorry for that anyway. So I think from what you said, from what you said, you talked about having from what you said, having a light platform, right, for stable internet. And that would probably help. That would probably help. Probably our solution or something much better. So so in terms of, if you're asking in terms of I don't know of that at the moment. I don't know of that at the moment.
Okay, that's all right. So what happens is that, suppose you are using Facebook.com as a main application, and if you have a problem, there is one more application called Facebook Lite, and that application can
Yes.
with a low network. So that's what I'm saying. Nowadays, what companies are doing when they have a problem with the band network around the world, wherever they wanted to work on, so they have a separate application which utilize less network or less internet bandwidth as compared to the heavy applications. So this is also one of the services and consulting business or development people do nowadays to make sure that everyone can access the application. And if they can't full-fledged or they can't use the complete application, still they are still a part of that particular community.
Oh, great. Great. I fully understand what you're saying, right? Yeah, right now. Yeah. So from that, it's something we're going to work on. Yeah, because you just give a scenario right now. Like, for example, here in Nigeria, we have. I don't know, but I think it's open everywhere. We have this Facebook Lite, this Twitter Lite, with these light applications for those who have on stable internet. You can use these lighter applications. So from there, we're also going to factor that into our production, so that areas that do not have stable internet can use the light application and get a job done.
Wonderful. So when do you aware about that thing in the media industry as well? Because a lot of media companies, they also work with ISP closely, and they try to stream it in a much more better environment.
The truth, yeah. I mean, obviously, there's a lot more streaming going on now, Ankit, and your question's very relevant. I mean, for example, there's a lot of people now that stream across many platforms at the same time. But the key for me is that I felt we just got to a position where broadband itself was quite stable across many places.
Yeah.
But there wasn't much wriggle room. And unfortunately now we're wriggling for that room as we do take on more bandwidth for the items we're using. So what it's exposing now is issues back with the broadband system. And it's going to be ongoing. What we've got to do is we've got to get to a situation where the broadband is further ahead than the technology and what's coming.
Yeah.
It's a technology, otherwise, because we're going to keep developing technology, we're going to keep developing platforms. This way of living now is, whether we like it or not, is here forever. Even if there was no coronavirus tomorrow, we're still going to do a lot more virtually than we ever have done. And I've said it many times on these shows. You go back to the airlines. People aren't going to travel for that initial meeting now because they're going to rely on the technology. It's reliable. But now what we need to do is that broadband needs to now go ahead of the technology again. So it's just, and it's great because we're looking at positives. We're not thinking, we're now not thinking it won't work. We're thinking, how can it work better? How can it be quicker than the technology?
Well, I'm going to beam in on this part because this is my favorite conversations because of what I did in my past career. And we actually invented probably one of the most phenomenal and installed it, and it's working, broadband network systems back in 1993. We were building all of this in the labs. And the thing is that what you think you need today has existed since 1993. The problem is nobody wanted to invest in it to deploy it further than what we did. So we did deploy it in the Research Triangle Park. Okay, we hit 3 of the major telephone companies. We put the systems in there along with MCNC. And we connected the hospitals, we connected the school systems, and we generated all of this live data and generated the first MRI that ever went across a broadband network in seconds. So the technology has existed for a long time. The problem is getting them to deploy it. I get very frustrated because I started engineering things at my house to be able to interface with all of this stuff that we were doing in the lab. And it's yet to come out and meet with us. So you are right, Ben. We need to start getting it out there. There is an organization called Fiber to the Home Standards Committee. I would advise anyone who wants to be a part of this industry, try to become some of those, be a part of those committees, because that's where all of this is going to expand, and it's going to happen faster. But a lot of the doom that you saw happen back in, I think in 2008 in the telecom industry was they were not taking the latest and greatest technology and deploying it. They were just trying to reuse the technology that they had and try to make more bandwidth and stretch it thinner. And you can't do that. You would lose about 80% of your calls would start dropping. But with the fiber to the home projects and the network systems that were built back in '93, they could handle this. They could handle it completely because light travels faster, and you can put more on light than you can on the local landlines. But I will say this: copper is still pretty good. Cable, I've never been impressed with cable. But if you've got copper, there are ways to expand on copper and deliver data on copper, as well as I like copper because you can conduct electricity through it. But these are my favorite conversations because this is what we need to start doing to deploy us into the 21st century. We need to do it. It's there. We need to get it out of the labs and
in fact, there is one more concept. What happens is that whenever we watch any live sports around the world, because sports gets most viewership at certain point of time, and after that there is no viewership. So for that, initially, if you remember, when we watched the sports on web, they used to buffer, and you have to clear that buffer, and then we'll get to know what's happening around. But now, with using local ISPs, what happens is that we don't have to go to the main server or the media server of that particular channel or that domain. We just work locally with ISP, and that is easy for us to manage. And in fact, if you watch out a lot of our shows as well on IBMTV, there is no buffering unless you are in Africa.
Well, and
so the buffering is off. Yeah.
And like in a lot of these major cities, there's a special matrix that you can install in utilizing and combining wireless with a strong fiber backbone or a strong bandwidth, high bandwidth backbone. There are ways to juggle the two and still get good quality. Now, I will tell you this, where I thought medicine, science, and the government was going to invest in all of that, that's not what paid for the bandwidth speeds that we have today. I mention this every once in a while. I'm not even going to ask you guys the question because I know it's, but there are two things that paid for the bandwidth speeds that we use today. And it wasn't education and it wasn't medicine. It wasn't for quality of life. It was gaming and sex, porn. Those were the two things that paid and paved the bandwidth that we use today. Now, thank you for those services that created all the bandwidth that we have. But we need to work together now because it does exist. It's there. We just need to push it out of the labs and into the world. But there's a unique matrix that can be deployed, but they don't even deploy it because a lot of people, they don't research it enough to know how to use it. And I had the secret, and I shouldn't even share it, but there is a way to deploy fiber without even ditching. You don't even have to dig a ditch or use the right-of-way, the standard right-of-ways. So when I was told and being denied, oh, you can't roll your fiber out here because we don't have enough right-of-way, you don't need the right-of-way. You don't need to dig a ditch to use fiber. And that's what's great about it. And so, if you want to know more about it, I've got the perfect business model. It costs more than $5 million to roll out fiber in a city, but it can be done. But don't believe those guys who come to you, the scammers who come to you, go, oh, I can do it for $5 million. Nah, it's a lot more than that. But anyway, yes, totally.
But I would like to know from Telluride that, is there any company or the government is working on the bandwidth issue? Do you think that will be solved in future? Because nowadays it's more about digital and a lot of gadgets also require 5G connections. So how you cope up that situation in your country?
Oh, okay. I guess that's for me, right? Yeah. So we have we have fiber providers in Nigeria. I know a couple of providers. I think so. What they currently offer is they offer to homes as well. But so it depends. So it depends on you as a subscriber if you want to subscribe to their particular service, But it's something that is not fully blown. It's not fully blown. So it's more or less available to, I would say, mid class and the high end users. Say for example for selected areas, because they won't deploy to areas where they cannot make their returns from. So they are going to be looking at area constraint where they're deploying their services to, and especially for enterprises as well. So it's just that.
One of the things that we did in the out in the middle of nowhere oil rigs and some of the military training is we came up with these unique pop-up communication pods. And of course, satellite is help solving a lot of the problems, but it's not very clear. Satellite does not deliver a very clear signal in many cases. But we would use drones to do emergency pop-ups with Wi-Fi built in them and send drones in. But there are so many ways to solve this problem. But the key is your backbone and installing the proper backbone and then installing a good matrix on top of the world. So get your backbone, but it's there. The answers are there. I have the perfect business model because that was, my life for 40 years ago. I was an engineer in telecom, and part of the projects I was able to work on, this was it. And what amazes me is we were building things in '93 that they're just now starting to use. They're just now deploying it. The problem is they're not deploying it properly. I don't think they're deploying it properly. That's my opinion. And I think, like you said, it's being deployed for the middle class and upper that we're forgetting to make sure that this is being able to use in other areas. Now, China has done a real good job, and Japan has done a real good job to make sure that the communication link is to everyone. everyone, it doesn't matter who you are, you do not pay for that communication link anywhere. Now, the other flip side to that is they control your content, right? So they give literally free internet access to everyone in that country. You do not pay for any internet access, but they do control the content that comes across there. And hello, we are, I guess, at 11:30. Let me just introduce everyone. Mark is just beamed in. But from the Tower of Power, we have our Washington correspondent, Bill Trezevant.
Hello.
Hello. And of course, we have Mark Lee, who has joined us all the way from Durham. And Mark has the radio talk show, the dinner talk show with Mark Lee, and a couple of other. And he has some amazing guests. He had one of my favorite actors on his show the other day. I don't know how you got David Wood on there, but wow, that was pretty impressive. And then we have Ben Coates all the way from the UK, Mr. Entrepreneur, and he can actually fly drones. I can't wait till I get to see some of that work. And then all the way from Nigeria, am I correct, Talib?
Yes, you're correct.
All the way from Nigeria, we have Talib, and he has worked really hard. He's so persistence. He has got key number one for being successful, persistence. He has done everything he can to keep his link up here. And he is sharing with us what his business idea is. I think is a little beyond just a startup. I could be wrong. But one of the key elements and problems is the ISP network in other countries. I find it interesting because Africa, South Africa, Nigeria, I've had people from that all over that continent come to me for giving them expertise on how to better improve their communications, but they never listen. The government will still just go out and continue doing it their own way, which is not exactly, I guess they do it the cost-effective way, but it's not exactly the best way. But there is an easy way, and I shouldn't say easy. It still takes a lot of work and engineering. But Mark, how are you doing today?
I am doing good. I'm glad. I saw that you were watching the conversation with Ira David Wood. And yes, I've known Ira for a while. So I reached out to him and we had that amazing conversation. Those stories he told were just hilarious and fun and very enjoyable. So I definitely enjoyed having him as a guest. He might try to appear again. I'm actually trying to talk his daughter, Evan Rachel Ward, into also appearing as well on IBM.TV. So I know that he definitely enjoyed the experience and I'm looking forward to having him again as a guest. And I've got some great news for y'all as well. We're going to have on the online dinner party, I've got another shocker for you as well. Nancy Sulla, who runs a group called IDE Corporation, and they talk about education. She has gotten together with me and we have put together a team of educators from Texas and the New Jersey area. Of course, I'll be representing North Carolina and all of that, but we will be talking about education and how it's surviving in this COVID age. So we're going to be talking about what they're doing in the education platform. So she's gotten me some folks, like I said, from Texas, from New Jersey, where I believe she's based at, as well as a number of other places. So I was just really amazed with the guests that she's brought me. She's brought me a person from the New Jersey City State, actually a former New Jersey City University, former associate superintendent of an urban district. So Dr. Adele Makala will be joining us, as well as Shane Beaufort, who is currently IDA's Corporation's Director of Educational Equity. And like I said, Nancy Sulla, who came actually out of the world of technology. She was an educator, then she went into computer technology. Now she's back in education. So she will be joining us as well. And there are a number of other great guests that will be joining us, including Roland Anton, who is currently the Director of Instructional Technology Support for the Texas Education Agency. So like I said, we're going to be bringing us some folks from Texas, from New Jersey, from around the world, and we're going to be discussing education in the COVID age. So I'm very much looking forward to that, and we're just going to have some fun with it, because like I said, they are all fun educators, so it should be an amazing show.
Well, I want to add too that a good friend of yours, Gwen from Shoe Crazy, is starting a show this week as well on Friday night. She does a wine show, a wine tasting party show. We should have had it with the debate last night. It might have made the debate a little more tolerable. Whining with wine and debate.
No, it was only wine tasting. It was only tasting, Kimberly. It wasn't drinking it and bathing yourself in it. It wouldn't have got over that page.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben.
Kimberly, I've got a couple of bottles of wine in my refrigerator currently right now. I did not reach them during the debate. I probably should have. It might have made it gone over a little bit better because I also watched, I think I might have missed the first 3 or 4 minutes, if you want to call it missing anything. But what I saw was definitely an embarrassment. And I'm sitting there going like, I couldn't even believe that they did that. I agree with some of the that Nick said earlier today. And I was talking to some friends of mine and they were like, we needed the mute button and all of that, because that mute button really would have come in effectively. And I think that, Dr. Tresvant and everything could have done a better job of moderating than Mike Wallace did. Chris Wallace did. And I definitely agree that they should have been more control of the debate. So I think that Bill could have done a better job. I could have done a better job. Ben could have done a better job. So let's just all get the IBM TV folks involved and we'll take it over and everything.
I think Ben could have done a better job, and he could have asked questions from the UK, and it would have been better. So I just
what they should have done was just unmuted it when there's something sensible said. So you'd have said about hour and 20, and just mute. Nobody else say anything for an hour and 20.
You know what's funny though is Fox had the control to do that, and they chose not to. That's what bothers me, because Nick and I have been on set enough to know that they could control those mics. So
the director can do it.
They could have muted anytime they wanted, and they chose not to. So I think that the technology, Fox failed to do their due diligence. But again, I think they did it because they like to see the messy fight. I think they think people like that. So
I think Bill has something he wanted to bring to us.
Okay. Well, no, actually, one of the real one of the horrible products of what happened last night is that today, around the world, and more importantly here in the United States, around kitchen tables, on the telephone, cell phones, text messages, chat, perhaps even on TikTok. I haven't even checked TikTok to see if there are memes on there yet or dances. But the point is that we are talking about who was a bigger jerk, rather than talking about what is the most sensible way to logistically roll out the various COVID-19 vaccines that they're preparing, or how it is that we restart our economy, or what it is that our schools need so that our children are safe. Rather than talking about all of that, we sit here with our sunglasses on and we are stuck talking about this. It is a colossal waste of human energy, and literally, I can say this, a colossal waste of human energy, brain power, on a global scale. And that's the shame.
No, I told the panel before it's going to be a middle school debate. In other words, you're basically have middle schoolers throwing things at each other. I just didn't know it was going to be this bad. I knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't know it was going to be this bad. And this bad, you start having to lay it on Chris Wallace and the team at Fox. This was not an IBM TV production. If it was, we would be scolded at. I mean, seriously, Bill, if we put on something like that and you had the participants going back and forth and you didn't hit the mute button, we'd be slaughtered here at IBM TV.
Actually, Nick, what I would do is I would exercise the delegated, unenumerated rights that you've given me, and I would simply cancel myself.
Well, I mean, yeah, you see that.
I kill it.
Bill, you bring up I came up with this great idea. I think that what they needed to do was borrow from one of our current occupants of the White House's most successful things. And he hasn't been that successful in many things, but I will acknowledge that The Apprentice was a successful show. So we should have had an opportunity for him to be fired. So like I said, somebody should have just come up to him and be like, "Hello,
fired."
Well, they could have removed him from the screen. I mean, the thing is that the technology was there. You could have muted the mics. The technology was there. You could remove from the screen. You could have the sound booth. You could have the mics in such a position that, like where my mic is in a position where it doesn't pick up a lot of ambient noise. So you could be screaming across the room and you couldn't hear it. There was a lot of technological solutions to it. You could even have share screens so we could see what the plan is. But they didn't do it. And so the thing is, I think the failure is with the Fox and the Fox Broadcasting, and the Fox failed the American people because he made us look really horrible as a country worldwide. I mean, the thing is, it wasn't just the United States. There are 110 million people here who watch the debacle, but people around the world, because we've already talked to them, except for Ben. Everybody else around the world has watched them, and made it look very horrible.
Actually, no. And on this point, I know this to be true. Ben legitimately had better things to do. Actually, we all did, but Ben was just
we all did.
to go do them. Ben was smart enough to go do them. So
yeah, well, it was 2:00 in the morning in the UK.
Oh, really?
To be honest, yeah, it was 2:00
That's
in
the
the morning.
only thing that saved us in Europe
Yeah.
is that it was way too late and most people missed it. That's the only thing that saved us, because in other parts of the world they were watching and it was just horrible. The reports we got all over the world have been horrible, and it really is. It's Fox's fault. Don't expect Fox to want to buy IBM TV anytime soon as I pummel them in the ground. You know? Like, pummel them, Pop Fox, you messed up.
Nick,
you guys are horrible over there.
You pummel Fox, but the fact is, you're talking about muting presidential candidates. There really shouldn't be anything to mute. There really should be, like Bill says, debates about policies. You don't mind people shouting over each other with content. They're not even shouting over each other with content. It's just dreadful. You know, I know you said about why are you going about families during a president? What does that got to do with things?
Right.
But what it should be and what it is two different things. What it should be, it isn't. It is what it is. Okay, so can you solve it? The answer is yes. Who can solve it? Fox. Would they solve it? No. So whose fault is this that it was such a horrible production? It's the director of Fox, the producer of Fox, and the moderator of Fox. All should be fired because it was horrible. Okay, but here's what's going to happen. They will not fire Fox. Watch, they'll be still producing this debacle next time.
No, actually, next time I think it's MSNBC's chance.
Really? Okay, if it's MSNBC, whoever it is, they need to bring their A game to the table, not the C game or the D game or even F game.
Going, you're done.
Right.
I know, right? You get me going.
Nick,
there's a way you can.
No, Nick, I just have a concern. May I? Because no, Nick, I just have a concern, and that is this: that I know that you've already created the poison pill with Fox taking over IBM. There are two more debates left. And I mean, do you want to start now and lay the groundwork?
No. Listen, we're not going to be taken over by Fox because smart television is never going to be owned by stupid television. Period. The end. Okay. So you can forget Fox ever taking over IBM TV. Ain't going to happen.
What about Shepherd TV? What about Shepherd TV running on the debates?
I don't know anything about Shepherd TV. I don't know what that is.
Dollar Store TV then. Sorry, Nick.
I don't know the other places. Oh, Shepherd? I never heard of it. Yeah. Oh, wait. I think I have. I think he's arrived, actually. I think I've heard of Shepherd TV. I think he just arrived.
Yeah, Shepherd is here.
Please bring us back to some kind of reality, Lynn, with the Dollar Store, because we're just talking about a debacle at the moment, and we're all so many.
He's arrived.
Shepherd has arrived. The thing that we know is that the Dollar Store is not a debacle. It is a wonderful thing, and we get great products. By the way, Lynn, you will be glad to know I got those pancakes last week. They didn't last long, so I did have them. I did make them, so they're already gone. I'm gonna have to get some more. And some of the other things that you said food-wise are also gone, and all of that. So I've got to say that. And by the way, I learned something that I did not always realize. I should have known this before, but if there's like a little minor accounting error or whatever, they will actually refund it back to you. So like I said, I think there was like $1.99 or something that was off and everything. So I got that back in my account today. So like I said, I know that y'all do the math and do the accounting. So definitely great job that Lynn does with the Dollar Store. And like I said, I don't know, maybe I'll get a pack of bubble gum with that $1.99, but it'll come in handy for something or another. But glad that y'all are doing such a great business job. So I'm going to turn it over to my good friend Lynn, who probably also watched that debate and was sitting there going like, I don't know what those folks were doing, but at least I know how to run a business.
I have to honestly say that I'm probably the happiest person here on this show today, because I didn't look at it last night. I refuse to look at any of them. I know that Bill has to because he can't do his reporting. I think we all need to send Bill some sort of a care package so he can survive all the rest of these. And I, what can I say?
I disagree. Then I think it was one of the easiest reports Bill's ever done because all it was no, listen, all it is last night there was a presidential debate. Thank you very much. That was it.
But why did you use from the reports that I've heard? Why did you say there was a debate?
Yeah,
wasn't it a presidential debacle?
There was two candidates, two presidential candidates in the playground. End of.
Yeah.
It's sad when the one side has to say, "Shut up, Mr. President. I need to finish. It's my turn. I need to finish." That moderator had kept trying to tell the president to stop so that Biden could finish what he was saying, and the president wouldn't even let him finish. And Biden finally says, "Shut up, Mr. President."
Yeah. And he said, just in complete disgust. And it's almost like, some of the conversations that have been occurring during this political season, where people just shut up, just stop. So,
I mean, when was the last time you heard of a president calling somebody, a vice president, a presidential candidate, calling somebody not once, but I think twice, a clown? So, like I said, I heard that at least several times because he wasn't very much silly.
See, this is exactly how the conversation degrades. Because you know what I say? In Biden's defense, Trump called him stupid. Said he graduated last in his class. Okay, so it's just going to be name after name. I mean, Trump said his kids were on cocaine. Okay, that's what came out of the presidential debate. But so it's just
and the other thing, he called the Americans stupid. He did. Because if the Americans are so stupid that they can't use the tax laws like I do, then they're just. But that's what he said. If the Americans are too stupid not to use these same tax laws, and I'm like, did he really say that? Because I couldn't play it back at the moment. I had to wait until it was finished to play it back. Did I really hear him just say the Americans were too stupid?
And he said, and he told, and I want to know what Bill thought of this. He said to the folks that are supremacists or have a certain kind of attitude and everything, stand down and stand by. What the heck is stand by?
He said stand back and stand by.
What does that mean?
Stand down.
What does stand back and stand by mean? Is that a message?
Okay, yeah, it's stand back just says, okay, take a step back, but be ready in case I call you. And these are look, this group, and I'm not even going to mention their names, is the most extremist hate group out there, and they are prone to violence. And so how are you telling you know what they did? This is all you need to know. They used that as their new motto. It went up like 20 minutes after Trump said it at the debate as their motto. So and they say, stand back, but stand by.
So that's a code that they're sending out to each other for something. And I was just told the other day, and Nick, I kind of text you about this, that to go ahead and batten down the hatches for after the election and go ahead and stock up and be prepared for not being able to do anything for 11 weeks, that there will be so many riots. That the stores are going to get destroyed and everything, but to go ahead and stock up for 11 weeks. And I go, why 11 weeks? And they go, that's the day from when the election starts inauguratory, right?
And you get rid of Trump.
But they said that there's going to be so many riots in the United States, worse than what we've been enduring. So we're stocking up now. We're canning some extra food. We're preparing for I'm preparing for a 15-week storm. Odds are it's probably they said it's going to be an 11-week storm, but that's the rumors here in North Carolina. If you want to know, we're the swing state. This is how we behave.
Well, Kim, at least will be interesting. In my boring life of running actuarial work, I think that that part will at least be interesting. But
well,
I can tell you though that this whole thing I saw yesterday, and also the thing is these guys are jabbing at each other's intelligence, and I'm going like, are you kidding me? What are you guys doing? Where's Justin?
Where is the intelligence in American politics?
There wasn't any.
No, there's not any, because there's just nothing coming out, is there? It's,
I couldn't even tell you what they were debating. All I saw was two middle school kids jammering at each other, and the moderator basically allowing it to take place. And it was horrible. It was actually horrible. A horrible production. And somewhere along the line, they better clean it up, because otherwise no one's going to watch it. I mean, there's nothing to really watch.
Mark, do you know what they decided who was going to talk first on it last night?
Mm-hmm.
They had a conker fight outside.
I think that we would have been more entertained with the gloves, but I will say this, Nick, just to give you a heads up, they're already starting to hoard the food from the stores. You can't get any canned tomatoes right now.
I'll go to Costco tomorrow.
I'm
going to Costco tomorrow anyway.
Stock up for, they say 11.
But there's another way you can get food. The Family Dollar store.
I was just going to say that.
Let's go to Lynn and see what they have at the Family Dollar store. Because he only has so much time, because we have somebody coming in purportedly in about 5 minutes. So we got to have Lynn discuss the Family Dollar store.
Let's make it quick, because we have a lot of food in the Family Dollar store. And if Kimberly, if you're correct, then this should be a boon for people ordering from the dollar store, because we can ship it right to your door. You don't have to worry about going in to the stores. By the way, I heard yesterday, and this is very, very interesting, that the actual brick and mortar store, which is called Family Dollar, which means that I may want to change the actual name here so that we don't get confused. But the Family Dollar, which buys a good portion of its stuff from China, is closing over 200 stores nationwide, and a lot of their racks are empty because they're not getting the products. Okay, either not getting them or not buying them from China. Over 60% of our products are made here in the United States, which means we have availability. There are very few things that we have in our big warehouse in Irvine, California, that we're out of. So shop at the online dollar store, because we have the products. They're American made, okay? And we have food. Now, we can't ship you perishables, but we have lots of dry food. And get there before Mark and Nick get there, because all of the snacks are going to be gone. Okay, and I know that also because I heard just heard that Mark likes the pancakes. Order the pancakes if you want them, because they'll be gone also. So, and the cookies, though, that's out of the question. But anyway, so here's the point. We have the stock. We can ship right to your home. Order for $25 or more, and it's free shipping. Okay. We're supporting Money Masters. We love the mission. It's financial education. But here's the thing. If you buy from the store, you don't have to remember about the link. Go to IBMTV, click on the big round button. It's green. But if you're colorblind, it's big and round, so don't worry about that. It'll take you right to the store, and you can do three things by ordering. Number one, you're going to save money, okay, and that's one of the things you learn when you learn about financial fitness. But number two, you're going to pay forward by helping us support Money Masters PBS, and number three is, if you're concerned about the people in California or along the Gulf Coast, with all the hurricanes that we've had, if you're concerned about all of that, find somebody who's down there an organization helping the people who have lost their homes, who are in shelters, and get their address, ship food to them, okay? Because people need stuff. Oh, and I saw on TV the other night, and I looked it up. There was in Ashland, Oregon. There is a guy who owns. He's an immigrant from Mexico who has a Mexican restaurant. Okay, and it's called the Tapatio. Okay, in Ashland, Oregon. He is making food and giving it away to the community. Okay, but he said food is not their issue. Baby products are. We have lots of baby products. So there is, look them up. It's El Tapatio in Ashland, Oregon. They have a program to support all the people who have lost their homes. Ashland, a beautiful area on the southwest coast of Oregon. And the fires out there have just been devastating. So ship products like the baby soap and stuff, little toys for the kids, so the kids can stay occupied. So there's a great charity that he has set up to be able to support the people in need in the Ashland, Oregon area. But they have them in Lake Charles. They have them in the Biloxi area in Mississippi. All the areas that have been hit by the hurricanes. So find one, buy some products, and ship them there. And here's what I'm going to say to you. Today's the last day where we're giving 100% of our profit to money masters. So hurry up and buy today, because you know that 100% of the profits from your purchases will go to Money Masters PBS. And by the way, we're not turning our back after today. It's 50%, but we want them to reap the benefits of everything. So I encourage Ben over there, who seems to, Ben is like this all the time. Ben, it's time for you. You can do some buying and have it shipped to an area in the United States. Forget about all of Nick's bashing of Great Britain, because most of the rest of us here in the United States like Great Britain. So especially people in areas of need. So that's it.
I want to add, we've got the Minions Club. They've got great products and Minions, and of course I have my napkins, but they get used a lot here because they're good quality napkins. One of the things that I'm real proud of with the Family Dollar store is that, one, they chose us, and two, they have good quality products like the CBD products, the napkins, the baby supplies, the soaps. They have great quality soaps. If you know somebody who needs something, you can box up a set of supplies that cost you $25 and it ships for free. So $25 will buy you a nice big box full of stuff to send to somebody. If you know somebody who's having a baby and you can't make the baby shower because of COVID, box them up as a set of supplies. You can also send them some gift certificates. But one of the things Lynn forgot to say is that by signing up, you start earning points. So the more you spend, you earn points that gives you free dollars to spend again. And this is very, very important in money management, right? Because you want your money working for you. And you also save time by not going to a brick and mortar. You save yourself from COVID. And Family Dollar Store stepped up to the plate during the COVID crisis, and they added masks to their stock. They also added more toilet paper, so that during the time when we didn't have enough toilet paper. So they stepped up to the plate. The masks become a lot more cost effective than buying them at the brick and mortar store. I know, because I have to do it. And these are the same quality masks that they use at my doctor's office. So I want to thank the Family Dollar store, because they are doing the 5 main steps for financial sustainability. And one of the things that we wanted to do when we started the TV show, when Nick started the TV show, was to close that gap between poverty and sustainability. And the only way to do that is financial literacy. And the only way to do that is to inspire financial fitness, to get on shows, make it interesting, make it engaging, and teach them the 5 most important elements. And that's how to manage your money, your spending, right? What you don't spend, you save. But there's a difference between saving and investing. So you want to learn how to invest. More important, you're going to have to learn how to pay the government, right? You're going to have to set aside money for them. And a lot of people don't do that. And then 5th, from all of this, you want to pay forward what you have left over. And it doesn't matter how you pay it forward, whether you invest in a startup, whether you invest in your faith and religion, or you just give money to a family member who is struggling during this time, or you buy supplies from the Family Dollar Store and send it to the crisis places, or, through FEMA, or send it to the prisons. There are so many people in the prisons who are suffering right now because they need soap. They need, toothbrushes and toothpaste. And this is a cost-effective way to do these things. But paying forward is very important to our society. It's how we're going to be able to survive all of this. Because if you just sit on their money and don't share it, we're not going to grow. And that leads me into we got a guest that just beamed in. Hello, Marion.
Hi. Hello, everybody. I'm here saying hello from London today.
Yes. Okay. All the way from London. How interesting. So share with the people who you are, what you do, so the team knows everything about you.
Sure. So I'm quite, a plethora of a lot of things. So, first and foremost, I'm a mother of 3. I live in San Francisco in the Bay Area in the United States. I run an IT consulting company called Star Mars Tech in San Francisco, who's been open for about 8 years now. And recently this year, I opened my new venture called Meridian Remote Teams. And this venture was conceived from my experience working in the BPO, or the business process outsourcing industry in the Philippines. Running an IT consulting company for the past 7-8 years, outsourcing has been one of the most growing industries within the business. And so, because I come from a very strong business development background, last 2 years, I've kind of delved into the BPO industry and understand how it benefits our customers. And being a huge advocate for women in tech. I spoke at the conference this year for Women in Tech at their global conference during Women's Day. I realized that, finding this remote working solution that's actually based in the Philippines, because I'm Filipino, and, helping provide opportunities for women to be able to work and at the same time take care of their family. Has provided such a huge impact. So besides from being an advocate in Women in Tech, I am also a UN global leader that represented a lot of businesses, small businesses, and financial investment funds in Davos, Switzerland, for the World Economic Forum. So I kind of have my head in all sorts of different things. But in general, it's really more about helping improve lives. Meridian Remote Teams, the startup that I run right now, we provide remote teams to a lot of companies who during COVID are struggling. A lot of the call centers or outsourcing companies that they've subscribed to, the huge ones in the Philippines right now, are having huge infection rates. And that is because they are not set up for remote working. And believe it or not, we started right before COVID, but when I put together the business plan for our startup, the process of wanting to move towards remote working versus the traditional outsourcing startup was because I wanted to empower the people. I felt like in the BPO industry and in outsourcing, it's a very toxic industry to almost where, us Americans, for instance, when you hear about outsourcing, you're thinking about some sweatshop somewhere off in India or China, and there's people that are, working in poor conditions and very little rights, and it's just a bad image, right? And so one of the biggest goals as part of improving people's lives is improving the BPO industry in the Philippines. And so I thought that if we're allowed to work remote and still provide for our family, it just empowers each and every one. We call them teammates instead of agents, because what we're really doing is almost rehabilitating the workers to have a sense of value and ownership in their role, and feel like this is not just some outsourced job that I have to work within these conditions. This is actually a company that I'm helping start build. So, we approach, we don't call ourselves outsourcing, but that's exactly what people know it as right now, as we're still trying to change people's mindset about why we're different from your traditional outsourcing company. But really, it comes with the promise of, when you save, because the average cost savings to switch to an outsourced solution is about 50 to 70%. So my idea is not only are our customers saving the amount, but you're actually changing lives across the world. And that's one of the things that I advocate for is, you as a business owner and somebody that sits on numerous boards, as an advisory on business development, you can definitely start a business that is ethical and that is providing an impact to the world. And that's what Meridian Remote Teams is all about.
So that's a huge task to take on, especially during COVID. You said you're from San Francisco, but you're in London right now. Is that correct?
So I'm kind of a traveling CEO. One of the reasons is because again, coming from a very strong business development background, and God knows during COVID, I always believe in having a personal connection with our customers. So I put a lot of effort into visiting our customers or our prospects, so they understand how genuine we are. I'm a very hands-on CEO and founder, and I onboard each and every teammate that comes into our family. That's what we call it. And at the same time, I facilitate each and every onboarding. Right now, we have about 14 customers that we service. We just started March of this year. And, we've grown 800% and still growing. But one of the things that we do specialize in, which is very far removed from your typical outsourcing experiences, we handle each and every customer one at a time, because our main goal is to make each and every customer and their account successful, so that if we make them a success, then that in turn provides us the success that we want to attain. So right now we're not looking into growing as fast. I didn't even anticipate, because that wasn't my focus. My focus was just to help both ends, to help our business owners, and at the same time to help some of the impoverished communities, specifically women in the Philippines. And I see somebody raising their hand.
Well, I think there's three people raising their hands. Because some of the things you're talking about, and women in tech is a huge passion of mine. I also sit I'm the vice chair on the North Carolina State University's computer science board. And one of the reasons is because they needed more influence for women to stay in technology, right? There was a huge dropout rate and turnover rate. And I was actually the first female to speak at their commencement exercises over the years. And so I'm very honored. And I like what you're doing. The women in tech, I kind of changed it up a little bit. And I call it, we're witches, right? Women in tech changing.
Absolutely. I see why you see that.
History, right? We're changing history. We're gonna move it forward.
Absolutely.
Because I felt like a lot of the policies that got set in place, and we were talking about this on Economic Monday with David K. Johnson, that a lot of the policies that got deleted were intended to hurt women just as much as they were race. When they said that you can no longer, weren't going to hear any more EEOC complaints or something like that. And the first thing that popped in my head wasn't just race issues, it was female issues, right? That you're taking away that equal right ability for women as well. And I don't think people really realized how difficult it is for women when you take these policies and you change them. But explain to us a little bit more about the Philippines. What is the big? Why do you think there's such a big difference in the way women are treated in the Philippines versus any other country?
Oh, well, it starts with colonization, right? So, the Philippines has been under Spanish rule for over 300 years. And so we've had the influence of, Europeans, and then after that, the Americans took over. So, the specific city where we operate of, which is in the Pampanga area, the central part of the biggest island called Luzon, used to be one of the biggest and most active American Air Force base called Clark Air Force Base. I actually was born and grew up there, and came to the United States around 8 years old. But my roots being there, I understood that right now in the outsourcing industry and the BPO industry, the Philippines is regarded as the #1 destination for outsourcing. And the reason behind that is because we have so much relatability to American and European cultures, above all the other Southeast Asian neighbors that we have. Now for women, because of, we've taken on all this very strong Spanish influence and, the concept of machismo. If you think about it, back in the very, very old world, the Philippines is actually a very matriarchal society. But because of the influences from abroad, that's kind of switched over. There was a Bloomberg article that I had posted on LinkedIn today, which is quite timely for this topic. I was sharing that right now during COVID, women are the ones that are suffering the most, because with the children that need to be taught online at home, and at the same time their husbands are home, working from home, supporting, they're having to kind of take a step back on their career and sacrifice for the family, for the family unit to work. And in the Philippines, you can multiply that by 10 times more. There is such a thing, with the number of options of jobs over there that are not open to a lot of women. Some example is a good 60 to 70% of our staff right now, our teammates, are all single mothers. So, single mothers, or women that have been housewives most of their life, never really built a career for themselves. And then, for instance, the husband passes away, or they get divorced or separated, they're forced to make ends meet for their family. All of a sudden, they're now the breadwinner. And when that happens, people have very rigid standards in the Philippines of, no, you need to come from a certain background. You need to have certain, work experience and this and that. And so what we do is, or what I do, and that I've never found in any of the other BPO providers, is I train them first. That's why I always call it, like, when I welcome them into Meridian remote teams, I always say, welcome to the beginning of the rest of your life. Because here it's really all about, as leaders and as a woman leader, my biggest concern is to be able to provide all of the support and tools necessary for them to be able to start a career. And somebody that's middle-aged, we have somebody that's 60, 59 years old in our team right now. And so she's a single grandmother. And she's actually half American, because her dad was one of the, airmen that used to operate out of Clark Air Force Base, so she's half American, so she understands the culture very well. And she speaks English fluently, no accent whatsoever. And she's great with doing calls. She's great with our customer success or our customer support team, because she's just, Filipinos are genuinely hospitable. I mean, you go there, and as much, as impoverished, communities are everywhere you go, people are always so open to giving even the shirt off their backs to foreigners, because you're just, built and raised that way, right? So you partner natural hospitality and, strong patience, diligence in their work, loyalty, with great skills. That's a killer in the industry. And so that is the reason why I saw a gem, I saw a diamond in the rough with Meridian remote teams. And that's something that I know it's an ambitious goal for me, but every life that we're able to improve and change is me being a step closer towards my purpose.
So one of the things that you're doing is you're providing an opportunity for people to have an income, right? You're and engineering a concept of allowing revenue to flow within a community, which is brilliant. But talk a little bit more on what makes your service. You've shared some things. What makes you unique? But what kind of target market do you look for in a client? Who are you looking for? Who would generally call you, and for what services? Explain that in better detail so that we can share with our viewers, and then maybe share your website.
Sure. So my main focus is women and in startups. So I am a startup advisor. So I am very, very passionate about helping a business succeed. And I feel like when our teammates are supporting a specific brand that we know is an ethical brand, somebody that actually has their values aligned with our value, and they become an integral part of that startup's journey to grow their business. So, most women right now, if you look at the numbers for 2020, that's why during my speak I said this, 2020 is the year of the women. Because for 2020, we have had the most startups opened by women all across the board in history. And, one of the biggest struggles that women face is resources. And, in order for them to scale a team, the cost effectiveness that Meridian Remote Team provides to them, and the flexibility and customization, and at the same time support that we provide at such a low cost, enables the women founders to be able to grow. And so when I share this story with my teammates in the Philippines, and I say, hey, we are taking on this brand. This is an exciting startup. They are women owned, for instance, or even if they're not women owned, but they have women leaders, in the company that believe in, closing the gender pay gap, for instance, or just striving towards making a difference and an impact in the world. They become very, very excited about the brand because we are a dedicated source. So each and every teammate that we onboard, we specialize and we match up with the role that are asked of us from our customers. And let me enumerate some of the biggest roles that we support right now. We support so it's customer support, technical support, any type of back office support, so like content moderation, data entry. We're also helping the healthcare industry right now because like our people in the Middle East are struggling with opening the hospitals and clinics and doing consultations. So we're providing medical virtual nurses. We do, for startups, we provide social media managers, which is huge right now because of COVID. So a lot of efforts towards digital marketing. And then if you need like an executive virtual assistant to run numbers for you, we also do sales support, which is, we set up appointments for your sales team so their outreach isn't that hard. So think about any task that you have to take on such a high level. If you can kind of delegate that towards a team that can take care of it so you can focus on more meaningful work, that is what we are offering right now.
Okay. So,
Marian, I would like to know that, what kind of skills program you have back in Philippines? Because for all these things, you must have a lot of skills-based programs so that the resources are ready to work.
So it's
what kind of programs do you have in?
A lot of programs we have. We provide free training to a lot of women. There's actually 3 channels, and this is a channel that I'm going to be introducing Q1 of next year. But we're already starting to facilitate and get memberships in them, but not really more memberships, more of interest. So we've started a lot of marketing outreach in the country because we want to target the women on what they call the walking street, so kind of like the red light district of the area. So prostitution is one of the biggest industries in the Philippines, and a lot of the women feel like it's the easiest industry to get into, because it's not discriminant of their background. And so we target those areas, we target that industry, especially now during COVID, those places are quite closed. And, you know, we rehabilitate the women and empower them and make them understand that I came from this town. This is who I am as a person right now. I'm world renowned. I've gone through so many different places, but I'm here giving back because I believe in you and you can do it. And so we start with just, you know, personal rehabilitation, and then we start providing them with skills. We set them up with a training module that helps them build their confidence. And then at the same time, so we slowly do an evaluation of like, where did their interests lie? So we kind of have them try different types of skills and see which one resonates and applies to them the most, which one gets them excited. And then we focus on that and provide even more extensive training until we feel they're at least ready to get their feet wet and start working for us, and so that they can get assigned. That process can take anywhere from a month to 3 months. So we that's one channel. We help a lot of the women that work in prostitution. I mentioned to you the efforts to try and work with women that are single mothers, young mothers, and the older generation women. And then we have also the ones, the impoverished children who graduate from high school but can't afford to have a college education. And so what we do is we actually provide them a training module, kind of like a vocational studies, instead of having to go to college, because, you know, the BPO industry, actually, they pay a lot compared to all the other workers in the country. Like, they are paid higher than nurses in the Philippines, higher than bank managers, believe it or not. And so for us, it's like if your family is unable to send you straight to college because of the financial need, let us train you so you can work. And at the same time, you working will enable you to eventually, if you want to go back to school, then we'll help you do that. You know, one of the things that with each and every teammate when I onboard, that's why I facilitate this process, I try to learn each and every teammate's ultimate goal and dream in life. And so I always tell them, not only is Meridian a place for you to work and we provide you with the opportunities, but we would love to be the catalyst to help you build towards your ultimate dream in life. So as far as programs, that's one of the things. I was also in the Philippines just 2 months ago. I have very strong political influence because of my family's background. So I have partnerships with the city government, meaning the mayor of Angeles City, and other prominent cities in the Philippines that are aware of our programs. And I say, hey, we are here to help the people that need the help. And we have work because there are a lot of companies, you know, in not just in the United States, which is why I'm here in London today. We have customers here in London, but all across the world that we try to help that can't afford to build their own team of 5 or 10 but with Meridian remote teams, we're so small. I mean, you need one virtual assistant, one social media manager. That's, you know, you're never turned away. You can start with a team of 1 with us.
Hey, Marion, that was one of the questions I was going to ask is how global is your remote team? Because I know I've got a good friend who is in here in Durham, North Carolina, but she's originally from Brazil. And one of the things that she finds is that she's able to speak Portuguese. So definitely that gives her an advantage in the remote world and everything. But right now she's in the process of being between jobs and everything. So I was just wondering, how extensive is your remote team? Is it just concentrated in the Philippines, or do you look at other places like Brazil, like Puerto Rico, and a number of other places around the world?
You remind me of this wonderful woman I met at the World Economic Forum, because she's from Ukraine, from Kyiv. And that was the same question. She's like, Marion, you need to come to Kyiv and do this. So right now, because this is our first year, obviously the concentration and the focus is in the Philippines. But my hope is to be able to encourage a lot more women like myself who have the capability to do this. You know, take this to other countries. If there's any countries where I can initiate these efforts and share the same vision to try and kickstart wanting a change, why not? Absolutely. You know, I'd encourage her, your friend, if she's in, you know, the region where you're at, to reach out to us. And if there's anything I can do, this is one of the things that I do as a woman in tech. advocate is I help a lot of women, even if it's not within Meridian. I still run Star Mars, and so part of Star Mars is actually providing talent acquisition. So I might have some remote roles for her.
Okay, I'll let her know that.
Thank you.
And also, Marian, I would like to know that, I mean, with Philippines, the perception for the world is that they're very hardworking, they're very honest, and they can speak English, and they know how to get the work done. But a lot of Philippines, they work outside their own country, and especially women. So, I mean, how you think that, I mean, because most of them are doing other work like home kind of service and stuff like that. So, what is the ratio of working in women in Philippines, and how much of your task force is working outside your country? Do you have any numbers on that?
No, we're all in the Philippines. And so, and you're right, I want to address this. Part of the reason why I built Meridian Remote Teams was the Philippines is the biggest and largest distributor of talent globally, right? Unfortunately, before the outsourcing or BPO industry started in the Philippines, a lot of, professionals would actually, right after college, like nurses, for instance, this is why we provide virtual nurses, they would leave the country and they would have to be separate from their family and just send money back home. This is a very Filipino thing. And so this is also part of the reason why I got very excited when I heard about this industry. I'm like, how have I not heard about this? And when I did, I was like, what a wonderful opportunity to bring families back together where they don't have to venture off because we're providing them an opportunity for a job that is able to provide for them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because one of the things I've noticed about the Filipino bloc and everything is that I agree with what Anki just said, that a number of folks that are of that descent were working in business. I remember a friend of mine that unfortunately has passed away, but he ran a construction management company, and he definitely had as his primary administrative aides and everything were two young ladies from the Philippines. But and I'm wondering what Bill thinks about this question I'm getting ready to ask is that there's a lot of Filipinos that are in the very power broken kind of markets. They might be administrators, they might be things of that nature, but I have not really seen them coalesce their power and actually become like a political bloc the way I've seen like the African American population and the Latino population. And I was wondering your thoughts of why that hasn't happened, because there is a large Filipino population throughout the country, not just here in the South, but in New York and other places. And then Bill might have some comments as well about that.
As far as the Philippines is concerned, because we are a matriarch, if anything, in fairness, there's a lot of powerful women. We've had so far 2 Filipino presidents, and women, because of how versatile and how hardworking and highly skilled they become. The tendency for them to go offshore and for instance, into the United States, I think it's a confidence issue, right? It's that colonial mentality. Because even in the Philippines, whenever there's a foreigner that comes in, there's almost like there's this hierarchy of, because you're a foreigner, you're so much better than me. And that's one of the things I'm trying to change as well too, within my own company in the Philippines. But, going back to the women that have to travel and seek alternative jobs elsewhere, like the United States or Europe, for instance, because of the low confidence level, they feel like, okay, whatever first job I get, I'm going to work really, really hard because that's how they were taught. And unfortunately, the most of the women that do leave come from women of impoverished background, that they're able to, get an education, and the first thing they want to do is leave the country because it's, towards greener pastures. And so those women, unfortunately, have always, have been raised to always think that they would only succeed up to this level. And there's only quite a few that are bold enough and confident enough to pursue more. I was quite fortunate that even though I was born in the Philippines, I come from a very strong, women's background, where I'm raised by a very strong grandmother and a strong mother. And
that's amazing. In fact, Marian, everyone knows that. Philippines is all about women entrepreneurship and stuff like that around the world, and that's what people would love to work with them. But as of now, I think we need to do multiple special shows about Philippines and the work culture and the skill program you have, because it's very difficult to talk within 30 minutes of time frame and stuff like that. So maybe we can have you more often on our shows and discussing about the work culture and what we can do and all those stuff. in fact, how we can collaborate and do a show, because we are also working on a international women's program this October. So we have a lot of women joining us around the world, and we are also awarding them for their work culture in partnership with a company based out of Canada and US. So that's what it is. But as of now, it's top of the art. So I would like to introduce our panelists one more time. We have Marian Valenbra joining us from London, but she works with Philippines and Filipinos around the world and improving their empowerment and work culture. We have Kimberly Kalu joining us from Raleigh, North Carolina, and she is co-founder and senior executive producer at IBMTV. We have Mark Lee joining us from North Carolina. Mark does a lot of shows with us, including first of its kind radio show on IBMTV. And we have Bill President, our White House correspondent based out of Washington, D.C. And Bill also does a lot of shows, including American politics. We have Donald Malloy joining us from US, and Donald is a cybersecurity specialist. And we'll be discussing about how we can do a lot of interesting payments during this COVID era and the cashless payment, and still we are safe and secure. And then we have Ketul Shah joining us from the fintech payment industry from Maryland, US. So that's the panel for the discussion right now. So I would like to know from Donald. I mean, Donald, we have Ketul and we have Marian, and Marian works with a lot of people in Philippines and around the world. So what kind of security elements required when we do a lot of back-end work, remote work, I mean, for companies sitting in different countries?
What kind of back-end security you provide?
What kind of security? Because there are a lot of securities and a lot of domains and IPs required when we work remotely and, on certain projects and stuff like that. So how can we plan and how can we work?
One of the things that we're starting to see on the payment side, the fintech side, and securing the payments, if you go back to when 2015 or so, when Apple Pay came out, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Android Pay, they're very secure. The whole positioning is very secure, but the front end, the banks, when they sign people up, if you do not have the right identity, if you sign up a fraudster, then once they get in, it's like blockchain. Once you get authenticated, once you get inside, then it's really hard to get them out. So even before Visa had the credit cards with the chip on it, with the magnetic stripe, they were only getting 0.001% fraud with a mag stripe card, which, as you know, mag stripe's not very secure because they use a lot of other methods. And with Apple Pay, they were getting 5.7% fraud because they were letting the fraudsters in on the front door. So authenticating the human with some type of biometric behavioral biometrics, which is becoming very popular now, device authentication, so that when you log somebody in, you absolutely know who they are. One of the big trends that's happening in the United States and across Europe and Asia, I work with a Korean company who's doing this for the Korean country, is the MDL, the mobile driver's license. And when we say MDL, we don't just mean having a driver's license, a picture on your phone. We mean having the actual driver's license credentials on your phone, and you control the access as to what you share when you show that credential to a police officer, or when you show it to a nightclub owner. Whatever you need to demonstrate, you can vary the amount of information that you share. This, the Secure Technology Alliance, along with AMVO and ISO, is developing the standards for MDL, and there are pilots happening now in, I think, about 20 states. There are rollouts in about 4 or 5 states. There are rollouts in countries. This is really going to become our identification piece for all sorts of payments, contracts, and things to come in the future.
That's wonderful. And Ketul, I mean, we have Marian, and she with a lot of Filipinos around the world, empowering them, working at all. And also, we know that a lot of Filipinos work outside their country, and they do a lot of payments on month-to-month basis, maybe millions of dollars of payments to their country back home. So what do you suggest for them? I mean, what's the best way to pay back to the country? Because you are from the fintech industry, they might be using multiple options to pay it out. So what's the best way and how we can secure the payments?
So hello everyone. I really like the conversation that Donald mentioned about the the license on your basically like an encrypted format, so you can share the only necessary information to the the party who's actually looking for your information. But other than that, the basic structure here about the payments is what are the top three measures that any payment companies or any customers have to take in order to process the payment. So let me start with that. Like the number one thing is like the PCI validated solution. So you have to have a PCI compliant.
Right.
Basically, you know that PCI protects your firewall, protects your the user credentials. PCI protects the customer's right in terms of like any fraud happens, or basically protects against any big penalty that they have to pay. So basically, the very first basic sense is like that you have to comply it with PCI. Either you are a payment gateway, you are a payment processors, or you are a customer. Your system has to be fully compliant. The second thing is like how the transaction from one place to the other place occurred. So you have to have a SSL certified or SSL protocol that you have to use to
Yeah.
transfer the data. Now, what is this SSL stands for? Is a secure socket layer, which is basically protects your transaction from one entity to the other entity. And that basically there are a lot of angles there, like how the there is the encryption key, which is obviously shared between only two parties. So when your transaction leaves from one place to the other, like it's very secure because only person who can decrypt is the other entity. So it's like if you are in the kindergarten school, or like your early days where like your friends are communicating with each other in their sign language or some other language, only basically the means is like the other person only knows what the person is talking about. So that's a pretty much same protocol here that the credit majority credit card or fintech industries use. That is the SSL. And the third, the major thing is the tokenization. So basically how to replace your sensitive card information or any payment related information into a token. Basically, that token sits in the customer environment, and every time they need is basically they use this like very dummy data to process the payment. So any hack or any credit card fraud happened, your actual card information or an actual payment information are pretty secure, because that token is basically nothing but a dummy card number. So these are the top three measures that normally the fintech industries or the payments do. Now the new ways are coming into the market, which is the contactless. So if you know, like all the new cards are capable of supporting the tap and pay or like a contactless payment. So contactless payment is nothing but like in the old days, like the swipers, the max stripe cards, which is obviously not secure at all. but but as Donald mentioned, like there are like a lot of companies who doesn't still, they don't care about the supporting max stripes, because their fraudulence are like pretty much like 1% out of like 99% transactions are, they don't really care how the transaction goes, as long as the chargebacks won't happen on their account. So in that case, like they don't want to upgrade their system because they are okay with that, the max strike supports and not EMV capable terminals in their property, because that obviously that increase their cost, and like they have to replace all the terminals and some old terminals. So that is what normally the customers do these days. But as I know, like I can easily copy any max stripe cards, and anybody do that.
Very
It's
easy.
it's very easy.
Very easy.
uh, so the contactless transactions are way secure compared to the other EMV capable terminals or EMV chip, as well as the MaxStripe, because contactless doesn't use all the customer's card data. Like for example, your card holder name or your 3-digit security code, that doesn't transfer from one place to the other on the tap and go transactions. Basically, they use the RFID or like any other the new technology on the contactless, basically to transfer the secure payments. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, Ankit.
So Ketul, I mean, I was discussing with someone offline about the credit cards and the payments and all those stuff, and mostly people they prefer wallet payments as compared to the credit card payment. But there was a question, and I was also curious to know: can we change our three-digit number? I mean, once the card is issued, can we change it on our own? If we suppose by mistake we shared that number, instead of changing the card, can we just change our three-digit number?
Three-digit number is basically get along with your card numbers and all the security measures. So you can't really change it, as far as I know so far. But you can always like, for example, what Apple Pay does, right? When you store your card, Apple Pay gives you their token, right? The Apple token, and basically take all your data on their secure vault. So technically, you don't need to worry about changing your three digits or nothing at all. Now, for example, like let's say the bank, like let's say you have a fraud on your account and you call the bank and they wanted to basically, close your account and open the new account and give you a new card number, right? In that case, they make sure that they change everything associated with your account. So like your card number, expirations, three-digit CVV code, on the back, as well as all those, like the transactions that you verified, which is on your, right? They basically wanted to transfer any fundings from one account to the other and basically close your old account. So technically, like the three-digit is going away as well in near future, because as I said, contactless doesn't use that three-digit, so you don't really need to worry about that three-digit card. And majority, like old e-com platforms, like all the websites, they have still they use a lot of old systems where, like you had to manually enter like full card number, expirations, and three-digit CVV code, or on back of the card. Technically, like you had to make sure that the websites where you are actually shopping is also you know uh,
Right.
secured with
SSL,
that SSL protocol.
yeah.
Otherwise, that data is also used by any fraudulent activity happens, and then easily they can use your card, right? And you can also use. There are still a lot of terminals. I'm surprised to see those terminals outside in like a lot of stores that take the payment with your card number and expiration date. Forget about the three-digit code, but only card number and expiration date, and that is like way unsecure at all. But still, they are taking it and they are manually enter it, and a lot of fraud happens at that time. So
I want to add, I just did a transaction, just like what you're talking about. I purchased something in another state at a store for someone, and they took my credit card number by hand and my three-digit number, and that was all. They didn't take my full name. They didn't take anything else, and so that was very concerning to me. There's a lot of concerning things to me in the cybersecurity world, of the way that people are expecting us to send our data via email or upload it into a cloud that might not be very secure. I mean, there's just so many ways now. I mean, I'm surprised. If I were a hacker, I would go after the IRS and Department of Revenue in the United States. They store all of your information. If they tell you to send it to them, they store all of it on a Citrix cloud. So all of your information, because like right now, the way you have it, you have a bank over here, you have your credit card over here, and so somebody's got to get into 15 different accounts and with 15 different IDs. They take all of your information, they put it into one system, one identity for you. Now, along with your birth certificate, which my CPA was shocked that they demanded a birth certificate now, and they upload it on Citrix. All of this information sits on a outside external system on Citrix. Now, all they have to do is break in, and they go, "Oh, here's everything for Kim. Oh, here's everything for Don. Oh, here's everything for Mark," all in one spot. So I'm shocked at even our own government not taking, and I've had to access their so-called system. They don't do two-factor authentication to get in. And once you get in once, you can get in anytime you want. So I was shocked that even our own government doesn't take the precautions. And I'm listening to Keith talk about PCI compliance, which a lot of people probably aren't familiar with, but it's very strict compliance for payment cards. And I was part of all of the PCI compliant back when Don probably got started many years ago, when the first standard committee started coming out, and they were having all kinds of meetings in New York. Verizon was a big proponent in that area. They also failed to follow the PCI compliances or just meet the basic standards. And so that's why you had so many hacking. But everything we're talking about, the cybersecurity, what Dom brings to the table and everything, that's to protect us from hackers. That's to protect your identity from being stolen, your money from being stolen. I mean, I keep up with my bank account all the time, but there was a time period there where I would see charges that I never did. Charges from Spain, charges from, there was one, it was a $3,000 charge from Facebook. Nothing I would ever do on Facebook would cost $3,000, right? At the very most, a $30 campaign, but $3,000. And that was a hacker that managed to get into one of the payment systems on Facebook. So everything we're talking about here today is a means to protect your identity, resources for small businesses to help you protect your identity, but also protect your money. Because when it gets stolen, sometimes it's not that easy to get it back. Okay.
Yep. That's right.
It's just not. And Don brings many years of experience in this industry. I thought I had a lot, but Don, he can tell stories that would make your hair stand on end, and he keeps up with it daily, right? So, I don't do that anymore, Don. I have other ulcers for other things.
Yeah, Kim's right. One of the things with the payment side, storing your information. I've listened to people that will chop up that data, encrypt that data, and then store it like a jigsaw puzzle in many different places. That's not what our government does. That's not what our credit service bureaus do. I remembered when the guy from one of our credit service bureaus was caught before Congress with one of the big breaches. And he had the gall to tell them that this was his data. My credit card information, my birth information is not his data. It's my data. And he mishandled it, And so companies need to spread that data out and put it in different places. And that, I think that's one of the keys to when you talk about layered security, right? That's one of the keys.
It's very important, especially in this day and time, because the damage that somebody can do to you with the kind of information that is there is horrendous, and to fix it can be a big problem as well. But again, one of the things that shocked me, Don, and I know this would shock you, and this probably should go on another show completely, is I was going under an audit with the North Carolina Department of Revenue. And they wanted me to email them my records, email them my credit card statements, email them my birth certificate, and get this. So I came back to them and I said, I think that's a violation of privacy and security rights, and I think you're violating privacy and security policies. And so then I went and sat in one of their meetings, right, where they do quarterly meetings with your high level execs. And I asked the question. I didn't say that they were violating anything. I just asked them, what are your policies? And they go, oh, no, we would never have anyone email. And I go, really? And I got emails from their people telling me I had to email the data. And I asked them, I said, so what is your privacy and security policies for uploading data to a cloud storage? They had no idea that they were having the public upload to an external device that sat there for so many days, and then they would pull whatever they wanted. So to me, the handling and to me, privacy and security policies, the example being set, should start with our government, right? And it doesn't. And they punish, I don't know, Don, you know this, and Keto, you probably know this too, especially if you work in PCI compliant world or HIPAA. It's a strong punishment on people who violate it. Like, it's a huge fine. People can lose their jobs, yet they don't impose that same on themselves. And so, Don, what is your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the government we don't want to leave security to our government, but the government's always the last ones to get the latest technology, it seems. I know I heard in California, the EDD, the unemployment office, is still running computer systems from 30 years ago. Okay. They are still running COBOL. Kim, do you remember COBOL?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I mean,
that was the 80s programming. God. But what's surprising to me is that they don't invest in they'll hire somebody with CPA experience to be their CISO. And I go, seriously? You just hired a CPA to do your security officer work? I'm a little confused here. What experience does he have in security work?
Yeah.
And absolutely none. But he was real excited. They were real excited. We just hired our CISO. And I go, wow, bravo.
But even like, I also know like few companies who are using that SSL certificate, basically to authenticate the servers. But I was surprised to see that, and I'm not going to take the name here, but they're like very big corporation in the US who doesn't have any validation on the certificate, whether your certificate. So like, for example, just give you example, right? If I use the Marriott certificate and process the transaction in the Hyatt hotels, they don't have any validation. As long as what they see is like the certificate is valid, is not expired, and let them transaction go through. So I was surprised to see that even though they are using like certain technologies, but still there are a lot of edit checks and validations are not in place,
Ketul, I mean,
which is big alarming,
what happened is that when you go and do a deal with a server company, they offer you some free certificates that you can use if you don't want to buy those certificates. So a lot of companies, they don't invest in certificate, they just take the certificate of a server because that IP have also have a certificate, and they just use those certificates to make sure that they cross the first line of contact. But when there's a problem, then they go and buy those things because the bigger the company, the bigger the certificate is, and also that have a lot of value for certificate because every transaction also has some insurance in the back end as of now going on. But I would like to know from Donald that right now everything will be managed through a mobile phone, and we have a lot of information on a mobile phone. So when we change our phones, and a lot of security aspects to it as well. And whenever you download an app or whenever you give access to your Facebook or something else, you're also sharing your information to that company. So how we can protect that part, because this is something which is called a mobile security, which may be a bigger business in coming years, and a lot of hacking would be happening through a mobile phone because once you share the information, it's easy for anyone to just take it out and do it. And in fact, when you visit a lot of websites, before visiting the website, they ask you that whether I can apply for your Facebook access, or I can accept your cookies and caches and stuff like that. So what are the challenges, or what are the best practices to follow while browsing those websites?
So I see the phone is going to, I think it's going to morph a little bit as it is becoming much more imperative to be used in everything, right? I mean, I can walk out of my house and forget my wallet, but if I forget my phone, I drive back home, right? The phone is, we're going to have segmentation within the phone. So when I worked in semiconductors, I was with NXP, it was Philips at the time, and we had a chip that was firewalled within the chip so that you would have information on one side and information on the other side, and there was a concrete firewall protecting that information. We're going to start needing that in our phone. So our apps are not going to be able to see the other apps if we don't want them to. We're not going to be able to share information unless we choose to share that information. And as far as the human side, we're going to have and we're trying to work towards this, and it's been struggling, but is a self-sovereign identity. When we can reach a self-sovereign identity, then our identity with our phone will carry us everywhere we need to be. The United States does not have a national ID card. China has one because they wanted our chip in it. Some European countries have them, but most Asian countries have a national ID card. We never did because of so-called privacy issues. Our phone with the MDL, that will become our national ID card, because you're going to need it to get onto planes, get into any federal building, and to do anything. You're going to use your driver's license on your phone, and that will become your national ID card by just de facto.
But I
it's going
also
to have
have
to
one.
be secure. Yes.
But I also have one complaint on that. Majority
lot of
like this
complaints.
app stores, or like like a Google app or a Apple app and all that app stores, because they allow a lot of private app on their stores where people can download, and a lot of people are not aware about the security measures behind it. Like, for example, I was looking at one of the app, basically store your license, as you mentioned, like a lot of people put their license on that, and that app is like not secure, like for that storing all that data, the secure data on that. So I'm like having that little hard time to understand, like why you suddenly allow certain the apps which basically taking the customer data, and then you don't know where the data goes, and most of the time you don't know where, like the companies behind those like 2-3 apps basically exchange that data, even though you are not sharing the data. But like, for example, I'm telling you, like the 30 to 40% people are still not aware that the Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApps are owned by the same company. So how much data you are putting there on all this like different platform, it's basically exchanging every side.
Right.
Certainly.
That is a very good
And
question.
Ketul, you know that while doing those apps, but the problem is that we don't have any manual check because it's all done by bots and AI checks. So they have just checklist 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's the basis you are able to be a part of the Play Store or the Apple Store. That's how we do. But we can discuss that on our next conversation. I just wanted to mention one more thing which we can discuss on our next Startup Wednesday. Donald, one of my friend, he visited China, and he wanted to use a prepaid SIM. So the problem is that although they have a Chinese phone, but that phone is not manufactured in China, and that ways they are not able to use the SIM because of the security issues. Until and unless you have a Chinese phone which is manufactured in China, you can have the prepaid SIM. So that is something which we need to discuss, because this is I've never heard about this, but maybe we can discuss more about it. But the reason was that due to security issues, they just wanted to have a Chinese phone for a prepaid app. So maybe we can discuss on that. And on this note, I think we should wrap. We have a show coming up, Modern Investing with Sasha right now, which is live on IBMTV. So do join us, and thank you for joining, Marian. Today we would love to have you again discussing about the Filipino culture and stuff like that. And Donald and Ketul are regulars on IBMTV Startup Wednesday. So we'll see you 12:30 p.m. EST on next Wednesday. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mark, for joining us. It's time to wrap, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. I'm just waiting for this.